And welcome back to AR's Tales, aka the A.R.T podcast. I am A.R. Minabal, and I am joined by the creator of the Ironverse Comics, Cody Fernandez. How you doing, Cody?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, you are the creator. Do you also illustrate the Steel Cowboy series, the Jack Iron?
I do not. I work with an Argentinian artist called Maximiliano Dallo, and I've been working with him for, I guess we're working near a decade now, on getting this out and getting it through. We got our third issue out last year, at least digitally. Working on getting the physicals out next month, I think, to our backers. So yeah. He's very great talent, and I also work with a colorist named Stephen Cannon out of California who does the wonderful color work to really make our work shine.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the Ironverse comics still that you have for your profile of the Zoom, and it's even just the color work on that is phenomenal.
That's not Steve Cannon, actually. That is Frank Martin, which people might know from Venom, from quite a bit. He's been doing a lot of covers for Marvel for a while. I was very kind enough. He saw our work and enjoyed it enough that he wanted to color something for us, and that was his little fan art gift to us. So I've been using that for a while because it's a wonderful rendering from a professional talent.
Yeah, that's insane. So, how did you get started with this whole Ironverse storyline? I'm assuming that you created the entire genesis of the entire story and all that, right?
I did in my way. When I was a teenager, you start seeing the world a little bit differently, a little less naive, and some of the weight when you see the darknesses out there could be a lot. And
Mhm.
so I, through some struggles, personal mental struggles, I found a coping mechanism that worked for me, which was writing and building a character that had no choice but to be strong enough to have to bear with these weights. And that was Jack Irons. And so I was writing him when I was about 15, something like that. And those scripts were the original kind of basis for the first three that we've gotten out, first three issues over the last, again, near decade with Maxi Dallo. I met him in, I want to say late 2015, something like that. And we've just been going at it. But yeah, the main emphasis of Ironverse Comics is having the strength to stand up to those very real darknesses out there.
Wow. So you've been in the comic book game since you were 15, or
Eh,
even before that.
I would say I've been in the game for about the last 3 years, in terms of having books out, engaging with the community, marketing, learning, growing, and actually writing for other people, in the game. But I've been working at getting in there. I was in the amateur leagues there for yeah, since I was about 15, and I just wanted to write, and comic scripts are so free form that it allowed me to do that. I wrote plays before that, and that didn't really stick with me. A lot harder work to get that organized for me, and wasn't really interested in the more rigid formats required by film and animation writing. So comics is where I found my home and my comfort.
Now, do you mean plays as in screenplays or play as in like, like actors in a theater and there's somebody
Theater.
singing a soprano? Oh, wow, that's awesome.
Theater. Yeah, I did that first when I was younger. That's where I found my first writing bug. I've done a lot of short stories as well, but I find having to fill placing a lot of unnecessary words and prose writing in more novelization kind of writing, more strict short story writing. I enjoy it enough, but it doesn't get the information out of me quick enough for my satisfaction like
Mm.
scripting does.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's actually really awesome. You're the first person to ever really bring up the whole like theater into like the writing and I have to say
Yeah.
no, it's really awesome because actually, you know what?
Yeah.
maybe not so much. There was actually one person that he was writing a really gritty medieval fantasy, and he was actually really into Hamilton, which I thought was which I thought was just very funny, because like the story was real gritty, man. I'm talking about, I was like, Jesus Christ. I mean, like the writing was like phenomenal, because it really put you into the thing. And then to say that he was like, into Hamilton, he even broke out into a little like song and dance over it. I was like, wow, that's
Well,
cool.
right on. Yeah, no, I grew up kind of around the arts, and that's one of them. Some of the most fun and only times I really connected very well with other people and understood an audience was through, school plays. That got me bit on this performance, this communication of art with others. That's one of my original bits. After that, I went into rock and roll for God, I guess that was also from about 13 to 18 or so. Did some recording and all that fun stuff. Played gigs, went around, did that whole show, and that didn't keep up as we honestly the whole band as we had wanted it. So we moved on, and I found my home in comics.
My God, that is so awesome. Honestly, and I'm not knocking at it all. I actually I did a couple plays when I was younger, and I would say that that was the beginning of what started for me. For me, what it really was is in order to do these, we did Chicago and the Oz, not the Wizard of Oz, like the Oz with
Mhm,
Michael Jackson in it.
mhm.
We did, yeah, we did those, and I actually played like the Lion. I played really odd roles, and we played Grease.
Right on.
I was because we were in like the inner city, right? So I was Grease, right? A Spanish kid, was playing Grease, and Sandy was this Haitian chick. I mean, it was
Right on.
no, yeah, it was awesome. And
Yeah.
and the whole reason I even did that just because she was so fine. And I was like, wait, we get to do what? We get to, huh? All right.
All
Right here.
right. Yeah.
uh, and what got me into what started me into all that was that one, just seeing that, is that we had to like watch the movies. We had to watch Chicago. We had to watch the Odds, and I was watching
Yeah.
it for the first time with a person that was like telling us to study it. Every time I watch movies every time I watch movies, there was like a movie and entertainment, a way to kill like an
Yeah.
hour. It was the first time I saw a person that was like into it and was like breaking it down, and that's what caught me.
Mm,
That's what brought like brought everything out and
yeah. Brought it to that
phenomenal.
other level of awareness. I love hearing that.
Yeah, and like, and I'm hearing it resonate so much in like and what you're and how you're saying that, and the way that I hate
Oh,
you so
great.
young. Oh, I'm telling you, I'm
Yeah.
blown away. So how can you describe a little bit more of like the ethos of what the Jack Irons verse is, but without getting into too many spoilers, because we do want to make sure people go out and buy the
Yeah.
moment it releases.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. We do. I need all the support we can get. My main bit is we're working to build the best of the Weird Space West, and we can only do it with fans and friends like yourself and support. So I appreciate that very much. Ironverse Comics. I got a pitch up on the website here. I'll just read verbatim because it's going to be a lot smoother than me pulling it from my head.
Oh,
But
please.
yeah, let me see if it'll
I'll actually
just
pull
load
up
up
the
real quick.
I'll pull up the website myself later, so we can have people directed over there and look at it. And I'm sorry,
Oh,
I
perfect.
I
Thank you.
usually start the podcast with this. Please, where can people find you? Where Twitter handle, Instagram handle,
Oh,
website? Where
absolutely.
can people
Thank you.
find you? Indigo, Patreon, what's up? Drop everything.
All
If
right, we
there's a
got all kinds
company,
of stuff.
you know what I mean? If your mom's selling
Yeah.
soap in a cart somewhere, drop it. What's up?
Oh, no, no question, man. You can have no shame out here in this very competitive environment. Um, no, ironversecomics.com, that's the hub. You can basically find all our links there. However, my biggest following is on Twitter at cowboy_steel. I'm always happy to interact. I do a lot of community promotion and interaction and help when I can. I try to pass on, the indie community took me in and our work in and taught me so much and has literally financially supported our work so much. The least I can do is pass on that energy and hopefully see it grow. So that's a great place to interact. Email ironversecomics@gmail.com. Just reach out if you want to. Um, Facebook, I think I'm Jack Irons on there. You'd have to find it in Taos, New Mexico. However, I don't know the links too much there. Um, Patreon, Jack Irons the Steel Cowboy. We've been grinding there for a long time. YouTube, Ironverse Comics. I've been putting out daily videos on short little impressions of indie comics, and I do other live streams. I've done a few creator interviews, quite extensive backlog if folks are interested in hearing more of my jabbering. But really, ironversecomics.com is probably your best first stop. It's got all the main links up above to our older campaigns, to the trade paperback that's going to be releasing on Kickstarter here in the next couple months.
Oh yeah.
To my publisher, where you guys can snag at least physicals of #1. I believe they have a few of those left. They haven't sold out yet. Yeah, I mean, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention Global Comics. They're a digital hosting platform with a subscription fee that's just done wonders for community engagement. Even just the last couple of days, I released issue #2 on there, and we got about 20,000 page reads, which always swells my heart, seeing that the work's not only being seen, but it's being read. Great analytics. It's a good platform for new creators. They actively reach out and support their community, and I've been very glad to see that, and again, help it grow when I can.
Hell yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And the blurb.
Oh yes. So as I will probably say multiple times, if you folks engage with our work much, you'll hear me say it many times, is we're working to be the best of the Weird Space West. Our universe is fractured into the four horsemen's sick whims, a cracked mirror of sentient life's deepest lusts and fears, made manifest in excess. Earth is a reservation kept safe by a corrupt alien government trying to maintain its fascist control over what free galaxy is left by any means necessary. Humanity lives, cowers, and makes do alongside alien refugees and pilgrims behind the impenetrable walls of New Deadwood. When reality belongs to evil, heroes are inevitable. Welcome to Ironverse Comics. Enjoy the ride.
Holy shit. Wow.
Thank you. Could
you break that down a little bit more?
Yeah.
Again, without spoilers.
No, there's not really. The nice thing about how we built this is that those four horsemen, and I'll start there, they're pillars to this universe. There's not a part of this thing called Ironverse Comics that you'll engage with that isn't painted by them. They have won. The goal is still, even with them having won, is that there's opposition and there's strength. So you will find in space, Jack Irons, the series itself, Jack Irons Steel Cowboy, it follows an immortal man who remembers reincarnations. This ties into, again, when I was growing up and I saw all these darknesses and I had to shift the naivety more towards a wider perspective of truth and still have to continue on. I wanted a person who, having been exactly that, having participated and having lived through horrors, unimaginable horrors, the things that life can throw out, the real dark bits of society, of control, of power, a lot of good stuff too. I would rather focus on that a little bit here and there, but it's not as compelling. But and have to carry on. This man who could not die, he could not leave, he could not give up. It's impossible for him physically to end. So he has to take into account that he's got to continue and bear this weight. And so you'll find in the books, he's, most of the time he's talking from a bar. He's having a few drinks and he's just yapping. I tried to put some good barriers there so that, there's a chance that it's just some drunk guy, talking out his ass in the middle of some space bar, but as we continue, folks will find out, he's not, and have since issue 3's digital came out, he's not bluffing, and that these weights and these ideas and these things he's been bearing with, and he's still tried to maintain a positive soul, a sense of growth and good. We have 4 other titles in the works, one of which is a manga and has a actual free to read, two free reads on our website. The first one's issue #1 of Jack Irons. Folks can check that out. It's just down below. It says free reads. You'll find it pretty quick. And then the next is Cactus Coyote. And it deals with the same manifestations in space, in the galaxy, the wider, much older forms of power, the more archetypal forms of these four evil things that have taken over. Um, while Earth, it's a very unique circumstance where the four manifested in one place and are at war with each other, and the alien government came in and is cracking it down. So it's a reservation in terms of nobody goes in or out, and they keep humanity alive as a prize, as you know, look, the good we did. I do recommend people check out issues 1 and 2. You'll get much more info that's harder for me to convey in such a small space. But I don't know. It's mainly dealing with, at the end of the day, when reality belongs to evil, heroes are inevitable. It's that no matter how bad things are getting, eventually the antibody shows up and resists it. And you'll find that in any of our titles. Cactus Coyote is a alien smuggler who has a pocket dimension in his stomach. We have another one called Lady Silverado. She's the daughter of one of the horsemen called War. His attempt to become stronger by not limiting himself to a single form. Um, we have another character called Tracker, who was introduced in the very last page of issue 2 and is a big part of issue 3 of Jack Irons, whom is Earth's greatest hunter, and he is seeking to be the ultimate power, the top predator of the galaxy. Um, we have these different perspectives that, while not all altruistic, they are working towards something better than what is there. And that's kind of what Ironverse Comics is trying to do overall, from the perspective of indie comics or from artistic engagement, from any angle we can hit it. We're just trying to leave the place better than we found it and being honest about what we found.
My God. My God. I'm blown away. I'm blown away on a couple different things. I want to like tell you a couple ideas that like I just have like kicking around. uh God, there's so much going in my head after that. I mean, so
Oh, good.
where did you get this idea of bringing in the four horsemen? The idea of daughter of war. How does war have a daughter? Is it like Athena that she just has like thought children? Is it like Zeus that
It would
they
be
have like
kind of like that. So I have an 8-page short that hasn't manifested yet in any artistic capacity except for my script, where it's literally his blood. He drained himself and forged her. She's known as War's sword. He forged another weapon that he wants to let grow, and then he wants to just bring it back in.
my
It's
God.
kind of the Thanos Gamora relationship, but much more integral. And I really want to play more on the family and less on sacrificing family for power. More on like, this is the purpose of family, which
Mm,
is a darker kind of, again, the nationalistic, the tribalistic, the so many different ways that we divide ourselves to gain strength, which isn't full truth compared to the individual. But the four horsemen, you need an archetype, you need a thought form, you need something that's instantly recognizable, that can lead anybody to see many different flavors, but they're still correct on those flavors.
mm.
It's not so wide that you could have two people with completely different perspectives and one of them's wrong. No, both of them will be right in our case. The goal is to forge something as wide a perspective, as true a perspective as possible. And so what I went for is these four thought forms. So they're those four pillars. And there's a fifth technically too, which is the order force, the Anu Confederation, the galactic government. But honestly, these were easy things for me to recognize when I was growing up. Our penchant for violence,
Yep.
destruction, and power. Um, uh, Famine is kind of our pursuit of wealth at any cost, of just recklessly wanting more, reckless greed. Plague is reckless progress. How not having any limits on what you'll be able to do to further this idea or this concept.
My
And
God.
death is a very simple one, and that's the one that's going to be keeping kind of low key throughout most of our works for quite some time, because it's perpetual and it's not necessarily an evil per se, but it's a hardship, and it's an important one, and it's one that we don't know much about. So I would rather keep that the same in how we're putting it forward. But we needed archetypes. People recognize archetypes and can engage with archetypes easily, and they mean something to everybody. And we're trying to make work that means something.
My God, I'm about to get real Joe Rogan-y over here, but it is. Did you recognize that thing about famine and like the whole greed aspect? Do you recognize that at 15?
Oh, easily. It was not hard to see. You start learning about anything from world wars, anything in history, and you look back and you see the paths we've taken as power. It's not hard to kind of see the same mistakes being made with different labels, different brandings, and that's another bit with famine. It's just a big freaking show. Different brands, different labels, different divisions to sell you the same thing again and again and again and again, no matter what the detriment is to yourself or the humanity. And so yeah, I saw that pretty good, and it was I went from a kid who wanted to be friends with everybody to a kid who did not want to really be part of this whole
Yeah,
thing we're doing here.
I hear
And
you.
so that was one of my one of my outs, is like, you know what, there is hope. It's never lied to me about that either. It's telling me all these hard truths, but it also never lied to me about hope. And so I went ahead and leaned into that, and since I'm still here about 13 years later, I think it's working.
No, I mean the concept, of course, is something that like I think when you start paying attention a little bit, it's like easy to see. But it's that you were able to put it together with famine. I mean, like I grew up Catholic, and then like like when I
Mhm.
started growing up a little bit, started going off of it. I remember when I was like a kid, I never understood that thing of like famine, because like you put like, the idea of famine with like strictly it being food, and then
Yeah.
like and then like literally like eating too much is like number seven, like but like after
Mhm.
killing somebody. So it's like, oh wait a minute, so
Yeah.
having too many two hamburgers is about the same line as me going crazy and killing like my neighbor, in the words of the Bible. I always
It
consider it like
can be,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, I always consider
Yeah,
that being outrageous. And then
and that's why I work off of thought forms, generalities. That's been my problem with any organizational structure that we've manifested, basically, is that it doesn't count the individual to the level that it has to be truth. It does it for control, or it does it for. Sometimes it can do it to hold things together. Sometimes it's the only thing that'll keep things together. And there's sacrifices that have to be made to do that. But nonetheless, it doesn't change the nature. Again, famine is that reckless consumption, but it's also a kind of fear where you feel you have to have all this, all the power, all the money, all the women, all the whatever. It's that bit. So ours is a corporate sleazeball, not a human corporate sleazeball, though he appears as one and used that quite a bit. Our war is a big, burly, Spartan-looking dude who is all about. There's some honor in war, but it's ugly. Um, our scientist dude, Plague, is a smaller dude, and he manifests biological weapons, kaiju, uh, viruses in issue 2 of Jack, which was a little too timely. There was and then death, which is the silence, the finish, the quiet that we can never truly know while we are not quiet. Um, so it's like generalities. I wanted to. There's a difference between dragging somebody somewhere and holding their hand and walking them there.
yeah,
If you know what I mean. And that's
yeah.
that's a lot of communication, especially these days, is focused towards that drag,
Mm.
and doesn't have the patience to actually communicate, and more wants to force. And that's again one of the things I personally am trying to, and I think a lot of the team does too, is we're not talking down to anybody. We're simply sharing a perception, a perspective, and hopefully it's wide enough that a lot of people can get something good out of it.
Yeah, I have to say, one of the things that something you just like that you were just talking about now with the whole government. I love that you have that you both like agreed that like because I mean I'm kin with everything you're saying about all that and the government, the whole idea of control.
Uh,
But I love that you also have like enough to agree that like there is some of it that it is to kind of like hold things together, at least to hold
yep.
together an illusion of it.
Yes.
And
No. Absolutely. It needs some kind of glue, and it's sad that our best options at that glue often come at the end of the barrel of a gun or a knife. But it's a hard truths of survival. And again, I think we can do much better. We have it in our capability and in our how we exist. We can do better. It's just we don't tend to. And so a lot of what I write about and discuss about is oh, so why aren't we doing better? And here's this thing that it's comfortable not to engage with every day, but it's there every day nonetheless. um, and weigh the costs and benefits, because I don't know better than anybody, but I do know that we can engage with truth at a more fundamental level and do better about it for everybody.
without a doubt, and it's actually like crazy how everything like ties together. I don't know if you're a fan of Doctor Who by any chance.
Here and there, I was that first remake season. I forgot his name. I was a big fan of that, and then I've seen episodes here and there that were really good. But I was never. I was a Star Trek guy.
Well, it's actually like great that you brought that up. The first remake season is as like Christopher Eccleston, I
Yes.
believe. Yeah.
Yes.
And
Yes.
yeah, so I was just watching the episode that like
Okay.
he brings Rose to the year 200,000, and he's like
Hmm.
amping her up how humanity like finally broke the bubble, and like every like there's no idea of like racism, or everyone's like together and all these things, and he gets
Hmm.
there. And like he sees that it's like kind of like what we're living in now. Everyone's like on their phones or like like listening to like the news, and he's like, "Yo, what the fuck?" Like humanity's like regressed like 100 years for fact. And like
Yeah.
and then as like they start progressing, it's like they start realizing that the news that people are so like amped up on is what's lying to the people. And then the crazy
Yeah.
my favorite quote in the episode so far is when the woman turns around and goes like, all right, well, if there was a conspiracy in Satellite 5, wouldn't we hear about it on Satellite 5? It was like, you come on.
that's
Part.
that's been my biggest problem these days, is that this willingness to trust the fear being broadcast over your gut instinct about, you
Logic.
don't know these people, you don't know what power is, and you've seen what power can be, and it can be the worst that we can manifest on this earth, and you want to trust that implicitly. That is a growing pain I hope we do evolve past someday.
I'm telling you, like, imagine if you had, imagine if you're a butcher, you have a local butcher. God knows why you have a butcher these days, but like everyone goes to Stop and Shop. But let's say you have a butcher, you go,
Yeah.
you go to the butcher, right? He gives you a decent price every day. One week he goes over and charges you $10 more. You're like, yo, what the hell? Second week he does it again. Are you gonna go to him the third week? No, because it's like, all right, he's gonna do that, right?
Yeah.
The news and the government does this every 3 years, and then we still turn around and go like, "Nah, they're not doing it again. Why would they do it
Yeah.
again?" Like literally,
Yeah.
we never learn a lesson ever, ever, ever. And like, it's not even a thing of like 10 years or 3 years. It's within weeks, days,
Oh, absolutely.
hours, and the thing is just getting smaller and smaller the more information that we get.
Yeah, and honestly, all we really have is the moment, and so that's where all my hope and faith is that there's always just the moment. We perceive something behind we can't interact with, we perceive something in front we can't interact with, but here in the moment we can do something, and so that's where this got me to make a comic, got me to interact and jump on social media, which I didn't want to touch with a 100-foot pole.
I hear you
Uh, I mean,
completely.
there's all these little sacrifices that have been good for me to get these things out, but from 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 a different perspective, I'm a pretty private individual, and I think there's a if we try to control everything, it will all fall apart the same way if we don't control anything. So there's a balancing act to all of it, and the balancing act has been skewed for quite some time, and I could see people not being so comfortable with a lot of it these days.
Mm. Yeah, the thing is that it's like it's funny because especially when you start having like all these like fringe ideas with like friends, eventually you start hearing somebody goes like, yeah, but like whatever. But it's like there's no way that there's no minority. You know what I mean? There's no way that there's that many people out there that want every aspect of their life quantified and like
Oh
easily
no,
accessed. There's no way. There has to be some tipping
no.
over point. A bubble has to
No,
pop.
but if you watch, it's been an erosion. You get people comfortable.
Yup.
It's they call it the the frog in boiling
Yep.
water kind of thing, and that. I mean, it worked in fucking Nazi Germany. It worked in Soviet Russia. It worked in and continues to work in China. At least it started not working with the Hong Kong protests, but those were kind of forgotten about a little
Yep.
quickly as soon as it got worldwide, consistent attention. But it's again, I cannot implicitly trust power. It's just it's never going to happen. I don't think anybody does, but people are more comfortable believing that they can, or at least that maybe they don't, but they can accept it because their life matters too, and that's important. You don't want to lose perspective on you to what the world is either, because if we are, in essence the world, but you can't carry that burden, and that's Jack carries that burden, and that's part of his fun as a thought piece. But in actuality, just no single human can do that. It's just too much, and it's not yours to carry. It's ours to carry, and we're just not that great at sharing it yet.
Oh my God. I'm vibing with everything you're saying.
Oh, I appreciate
You can put on a throw pillow. Uh, well, one thing that I love because your panels, the panels that I've seen are
it.
just gorgeous.
Oh
So,
yeah.
do you play around with like the ideas of technologies and then like different guns and toys like that? That's personally one of my favorite things I love to geek out on is like making the toys and different like, guns and all the fake pseudoscience around it. Is that something that you like to delve into? Does Jack have a special cannon or a special type of something, a robotic ant?
Oh, so there's some things like that. Issue 3, we
Robotic ant.
introduced. I don't know if you're an anime fan, but we homage basically anything that, at least I do when I'm writing, anything of that I found of value from Western tropes, from sci-fi tropes, from anything I can fit in that's strong. One of them's a slightly obscure Western kind of themed anime called Outlaw Star. We got their magic bullets basically in there. We've done a few things. One of the key parts of Ironverse Comics, but why Earth was taken up as a reservation is called Prot. This young man, when everything was finally falling apart, the Four Horsemen thought they had it, gained on Earth, and were actually going to ascend into the greater galaxy to join their compatriots. He invented a machine that would reprocess any organic matter, whether it's poisonous or radioactive or inedible, into something edible. That's called prot. And the Anu Confederation needed that to feed its troops. So it took that technology, and in return, it keeps the Earth safe. And so that's kind of one of the cogs, is this food that can reprocess anything. So you can literally, you could eat, and then you reprocess the sewage back into food, and you get about as much nutrients as was left. And so it's way more efficient. It's not an infinite food supply, but when you're trying to feed a galaxy at war, it's very useful. And so that's kind of one of our technological how things work tropes. My co-editor Dollar Coins, who's the mangaka who does Cactus Coyote, he's done a lot of the quote unquote world building, but it's galaxy building. It's more of the overall the politics, different factions, the ships, a lot of that. He enjoys doing that, and I enjoy his work quite a bit. Myself, I focus more on the on the metaphors and let the metaphors build the tool I need to communicate it. So I enjoy it quite a bit. Like Jack's armor, that was one that took a little bit to get how we wanted it. Um, there's little things, but my artist for Jack Irons did a lot of the design stuff. I have this old picture I drew of Jack back from like 2012 or so that he did some sketches off of when I met him. But honestly, a lot of the design, unless he was asking me specifically or I had a very specific idea in mind, like Tracker Top Predator's totem rifle, what that manifested as. Um, it's mostly his because he's got that artistic eye. He's got that skill, and I tend to not worry so much about the little things as much as getting it done and getting the right communication in the work. And he's just so good at making it look good.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. I have to. World building is by far my favorite. I mean, I spend a good 60% of my day just innately doing that for fun, just on anything.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah, yeah.
it's just I don't know what it is. It's just that like my brain is just like it's like built towards like making those type of things. I never write anything down. It's just like and it's like recalled. I can remember things when I thought of when I was like 12, but I can now remember like what I learned when I was 12, you know?
Mhm.
God forbid.
Well, it's the levels of importance again. As I was saying, it's you can put so much energy towards this greater, bigger importance, but then you're throwing everything that's you under the bus to do it. And so even just at that point of I remember this, but not what I was told to remember then.
Yeah.
That's one of those manifestations of that. Again, I like you. I harmonize with that quite a bit.
Yeah, dude, and it's crazy because I love the artwork. You probably haven't seen probably haven't seen anything because I'm horrible with posting on Twitter, but on Instagram I have like all the artworks for Allegory and all like the whole universe thing that I'm developing for it, and I designed all of it, but I didn't draw any of it because I'm horrible with like I can just get basic ideas out, like, oh, like I want this. Like, it's like a kid, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, a car has the wheels this big, and and you put things together, and then I have to give
Yeah,
it to
yeah,
an
yeah.
actual like adult drawer. Like, all right, this, and at the cannon, I want the cannon this big, and then they make it into the actual like character. And
Mhm.
my God, there's nothing. I'm assuming you have like, something that you can resonate with. There's almost nothing better than like not only seeing your character come to life, but like interfacing with a person that
Mm.
also vibed with you because I started off with the first couple artists that I had that it just felt like I had to keep on repeating things that I had already said. Like I'd send them like manuscripts of like character detail, and then they'd still come back with like a derivative of something that they saw on TV. And then when I finally got my artist, it was like I sent them like a sentence, and they just make everything else on their own. They just understood it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's I love comics because of how intimate of a collaborative work it is.
Mm.
I could not have gotten anywhere without my team. They are extremely skilled, and their interpretation of what I'm trying to move forward not only looks good, but it's often far better than anything I imagined. So I've always been very loose with that, not very detailed. Even my scripts are pretty loose. They show what needs to be done, and then we look at it, and most of the time he can just go ahead and fully ink a page. Like it's not usually much control compared to say my co-editor again, Dollar Coins. He's much more interested in finer detail,
Mm.
and so getting him with an artist can be very interesting when he's not doing the art himself. It works and he gets what he wants out of it and it looks good, but it's definitely a different type of collaborative effort. And
Mm.
so as you're saying, it's really important to find a team that can communicate.
Yeah.
If you're just trying to bludgeon your vision through another artist, it's rarely going to end up any good, because it's going to be felt on the page. They're going to
Mm.
feel bludgeoned, and they're just not going to make something cool because they don't feel they are. They're being told what to make, instead of expressing. And it can be tough. It can be tough. Different artists act differently too. Been lucky to be able to keep up with Maxi all this time, but I've worked with a lot of other artists on pinups and other people's work as well, where I was writing or editing, and every pattern is different. One thing that came up today, again, somebody was asking me about editing notes, and he wanted me to show him kind of what the comic scripting format is. And I had to tell him right away, I've seen dozens and dozens of comic scripts from different creators, and I still can't match any two styles. There are always something different about how they did it. And that's one of the things I really appreciate about comics, particularly indie comics, is that it's so freeform and creative. Um, that there's no rigid line like there is in screenplays, or there is in novelization, or there is in many other forms of getting media and communicating through art. Um, Collaboratively, especially, they really expect that, especially if you're working with house money, for say. But in indie, you don't have that as much, and I think it allows more collaborative freedom. It allows more people to be able to work together than maybe they would be able to under a publishing house, or under a more controlling environment. And I think you can get better work that way too. Definitely more unique work.
Yeah, without a doubt. I'm actually glad that you're getting so much into the specifics of what indie comics is, because I actually, the moment I finally released this debut book, which should be coming out in like a month and a half or so.
No,
uh
congrats.
thank you. It's only taken like 5 or so years to get everything done, but
Congrats, double.
but when everything is set, because the only reason it's taking so long is just because like it's had so much time to brew, that it's like I have content for like ever now.
Yeah.
And what I'm really excited to do is, as I'm writing my the book that follows, is I want to start doing a comic book as well. It's one of the reasons that I actually stumbled on your thing is that I was looking for comic book like references for art, to like look for like artists. And
Oh.
it was actually because my idea is a space pirate,
Hmm.
basically. And it's almost kind of funny, because our like the I almost felt that our stories were going to be like almost reminiscent of one another, but how I made it was that Earth gets completely abandoned, and it's like
Hmm.
like everyone leaves to the other cooler planets, and then like everyone that's like can't afford to go, basically, are the people that stay. And then it kind of like forms like this whole like dichotomy of that, where there's like huge whatchamacallit, like junk houses, like junkyards, I mean, of like old, you know spaceships, because spaceships at that time, become like cell phones, where like iPhone 11, 10, it's like, you know what I mean? So like
Gotcha.
junkyards
Yes.
just get
Yes.
filled and filled with like, outdated spaceships that are phenomenal, still work great. So then
Hmm.
like people eventually, when they become too poor to like do anything, they pick up kind of like space piracy. And they see,
Mm.
they kind of junk
Yeah.
together their own spaceships and go out and steal from the mining corporations that are making all the money. So and I again, I'm loving everything that you're going into the specifics of comics, because it's one of the things that I love talking about, not just promoting the work. And you said a couple times, and I just want to reinforce it. Make sure to check out episodes in 1 and 2 of the Ironverse comics, of the Jack Steel Cowboy. You need to. You need
I
to.
appreciate that. They're
The
not going
art
to
is
be to
phenomenal.
everybody's. They're not going to be to everybody's taste. Yeah, there's no denying the art is phenomenal. The writing might not be to everybody's taste. If you're a fan of world building, then you're going to have a much better time with issue 2 than folks who aren't a big fan of world building. But I've learned quite a lot. I've taken quite a few lumps in this comics game, and I think with issue 3 we kind of hit a stride, and from issue 4 and on, which I'm so excited to share issue 4 with folks. It's a twisted tale on the four sights of the Buddha. It should be
Hell
an
yeah.
interesting communication, putting that is some more Eastern philosophy in with a lot of the Western I put forward. But nonetheless, I think we're getting better and better. And as long as people continue supporting the work, that's not going to stop. I have not made any money on this, but I have been able to pay artists a above indie comic rate through crowdfunding. I've been able to keep them afloat. We were able to
Hell
fund
yeah.
issue number 3 last year. I started the campaign about a month before the COVID lockdowns, before it was really like talked about and anything. And then everybody's out of work and such. And we
Mm.
struggled and struggled. And then last day, um, our fans and friends and everybody rallied, and we were able to fund that book last day about 40% of what we needed, which was the 10K goal. And so we're going to get this done and keep getting it done as long as people enjoy it.
Hell yeah.
As I've got a lot to say, as you probably already realized, and I want to share it with folks. And as long as they're willing to hear it and support it, we can do that. And I can take care of good artists, and I can continue growing and promoting other cool up and coming artists and writers and teams and books. It's one of the things I love the most is being able to do that. Meeting very cool folks who enjoy this relatively obscure medium when it's one of the one of the biggest parts of one of the biggest mediums out there, film, but it's still one of the most obscure and underutilized mediums on earth. So I would want, there's nowhere for comics to go but up, as long as we don't keep working towards getting worse. And I think indie is where we're going to find the steps up. And
Hell
not the
yeah.
complacency. Uh, but you never know. You never know.
No, and man, and the writing, I have full faith in, just how you're talking about. I mean, just the moment you said Buddha, I want to drop like a huge spoiler in like my book. Just like it was almost like a gag reflex. It's like, oh, Buddha, oh yeah, I did that too.
Oh, cool. Well, good. My from what I'm seeing too, there was a lot of there's unconscious harmonies being manifested is the best way I can say it. About the same time I was releasing number 2 out to folks, which has a very big part to do with a plague being released on humanity. Um, the AWA Studios, which was a new up and coming kind of studio who wanted to swing at Image and Dark Horse and a few of the bigger indie publishers. They had J. Michael Straczynski. They had, again, Frank Martin Jr., that wonderful colorist who colored this pick here. Oh God, there's a lot. Mike Diodato. There's a lot of big names that were with them, and their main bit was also that there was a plague that hit humanity. There's a resonance going on that I think is not. It's not going to be quiet, and
Mm,
I'm happy to see it continue to manifest in a bunch of different ways, because that's the way it's going to hit the most targets and hopefully improve things one way or another.
mm,
You never know. Again,
mm. Well,
I'm
that
a I'm a hopeless romantic. I hope so.
well, I'll be honest with you. I didn't. When I mean, I feel like I was like a huge knucklehead. Like all like probably until like I feel like college is when I started like paying attention to things. Because I remember in high school when I was in English, and I always did like I can't even say I always did decent in English, but like instead of getting like a D or like a C minus, I would get like a B in English. So it was like the best of, you know what I mean? It was the best that I had at the time.
Yeah.
And but like, and even then, it's like I never could understand why we would do so much studying into the author or their time frame. Like it never
Mhm.
made any sense to me. It was like, all right, listen, if this dude wrote whatever the fuck, and it doesn't matter if he wrote it in 1920 or in like 1970, because it's like all imaginative. It doesn't matter. But like it wasn't until later that I put together that like it makes almost as much relevance as
Mhm.
anything else.
Yeah.
What the author went through, their environment. I mean, Dr. Seuss went through the
Yep.
atrocities of war,
Yep.
and that is how he was able to write, Green Eggs and Ham. and like Cat in the Hat, because he saw the exact opposite of what humanity can be and then reeled it back in. Same thing with
Yep.
take I always Token. Same thing with
Yeah.
man, it's based on the name of the Narnia guy,
Oh yeah, I forgot his
Lewis,
name as
right?
well. But yes, yeah. Oh yes, yes, Lewis. Yes.
Yeah, C.S. Lewis. You know, it goes way back. I mean, Mary Shelley, the whole thing of
Ah.
Frankenstein at the time, it was because it was a real thing that we didn't
Mhm.
know the full like you know extent of like rigor mortis. That was, I mean, think about it. Why do we put
No, they were moving bodies with
yeah,
electricity then, just for
exactly.
fun.
Why do we put nails on a coffin? Think about it. Like it's the final nail on a
Uh-huh.
coffin. Why would you have to nail a coffin? It's because at the time people were like just
Yeah.
jumping up, and it was a common occurrence. Well, not a common occurrence, but every so often you would hear about, you know, Uncle Joe coming back and being like, "Oh, I wasn't really dead, motherfucker," and like knocking on the
Yeah. And so you
door.
had the bells.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Yeah, the bells. This was
Yeah.
like, you know, like everything is like a time frame. And if you don't know that, then you would like think of her, of this woman being like, oh, it's crazy. She was thinking about that way back then. But back then it was like, you know, relatively within the air, you know?
No, it was man's first kind of attempts at trying to control something, not first attempts controlling something of God, quote unquote, but something so powerful as life and death. And having
Yep.
this new method called science to do so, and the fears that come with that when you stop trusting God to take care of you and you start having to take care of yourself, and all the power at your hands when you're taking care of yourself that used to be somewhere else, whether it was a pastor or it was a president or it was, you know, any kind of
Yep.
other hierarchy figure. um, it's going to have some horror. It's not a fun experience. And even then, the monster ends up being tragic because it is a tragedy. It's a sad thing.
Yep.
But um, time frame is very important to consider when somebody's writing something, absolutely. But I think there's another little speckle of magic for not knowing that and still getting something out of it, because you're going
Yep.
to get something maybe a little less filtered, and that can be important as well.
Oh, you know what? Maybe that's what it was. Is that I was so focused on like the fiction of it that it was like you're trying to tell me all these things that's like, you know, polluting my thought of it. It's like, hey, listen, I don't want to think about war
Hmm.
when I'm thinking about
Yep.
Narnia. I want to think about Narnia.
Yeah.
Maybe that's
Yeah,
what it was.
exactly. And there's
I guess.
value to that, absolutely. I mean, you can't even communicate to a child without engaging at that level. Like you brought up Dr. Seuss, very simple concepts,
Yeah.
sharing and all that have to be dramatized, played up, and dressed up because there's a lot of sides to them. And a kid, you don't want to throw them right into the deep water. It's not a good idea. It
Uh,
doesn't
I
end up well.
I know, but it's so weird that like all the like folk stories of like
Mhm.
before
Yeah,
were, though they would throw you like in
yeah,
the
the
deep
grim
end,
fairy
and yeah,
tales,
they were like,
absolutely.
whoa, whoa.
That was a society that was living on fear of you going outside and getting your kids stolen, and you couldn't do anything about it. You
That's
know,
true.
you couldn't go to the Lord, you couldn't go to, you know, a wolf could. It was back when a wolf literally could take your baby. It was a time where life was hanging on a much more precarious ledge, not like the atom bomb precarious, but on a personal, familial level, you know. And it's a hard path we've walked, and that's why I give us a lot of patience, even with a lot of the mistakes we make.
Yeah, man. I have to say, I love
Yeah.
how you brought up that whole thing of like, you know, of like God and then switching into science. I mean, the book, which is like I feel like people like forget all the time. The full title of the book is Frankenstein, the Modern Prometheus. Prometheus
Yep.
being the god that was, you know, struck down from heaven basically for bringing fire to humanity. So
Yep.
it's like, you know, I mean, and the whole thing of like, you know, the author's life. I mean, she herself, like, you know, tuberculosis was also a huge thing at the
Mhm.
time during London. People were just dropping
Yeah.
out of nowhere. Edgar Allan Poe. I mean, like that dude's entire life was a horror
Yeah.
movie. You know,
Yeah,
like
and he
even
got
his
some art
death
out of
was a
it.
murder was a murder mystery. I mean, like
Yeah.
everything everything correlates. But like, so the whole reason I brought that up is that like I'm really like almost interested to see how, in 40, 50 years when my grandkids are talking to me, like, wait, you were alive during this time? And it was like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And like, like, and like, and how they're gonna dramatize it and make it seem like it was so much crazier than it was. That's how it always is. When you talk to your parents about Woodstock, they're gonna be like, oh, it was crazy. But back then, they probably were just like thinking about how much it smells, or like, everything like gets like played up, and like you put like rose tin glasses when you look at things in the past. So, in
Yeah.
like 70 years, people are going to ask about COVID, and we're going to be like, oh, it was dark times. I remember I used to do this. And in reality, we're just at
I
home.
was in my room playing
Yeah,
playing PC for 4 weeks.
exactly.
Hard times.
Exactly.
No, but I mean, it is hard times, and
No,
I'm not trying to
definitely.
play that down either. But I get what I 100% get what you're saying. There's
And
right
more so,
now,
it's the content that's going to come out of it. It's more of that.
yes,
It's that like what is going to be
yes.
produced by people. That is more. It's like it's almost like a baby boom of content.
So
Like,
what I've noticed too with COVID in particular is that a lot more people they're out of work, they're being fed fear constantly, whether or not it's justified. I prefer it being fed as caution than fear, and it's being fed
mhm.
as fear primarily. But is that people are leaning into their dreams. I've never seen more indie comics, for instance, just in my sphere, come out and be supported, and from so many different types of stories and ideas and concepts that are being manifested because ain't there isn't anything else to lean into right now.
Yep.
I think that's a good thing. I think my hope is that we'll see more hopeful things and less dystopian, fearful things like we've been seeing for God 40 years now.
I'm telling
Um,
you.
and I write dystopian, fearful things. But
Me
but
too.
my yeah, but my hope is to continue to show how you can rise above it, and so that's the hope in it. But you never know. Again, I'm not certain about anything, but I can try.
Yeah, I mean, I have to tell you, for as much as because I fully believe all that too, and like I think that's one of the beautiful things about writing. It's actually why I don't like honestly like listening to the news, because
Yeah.
I'd almost rather read like a really cool fictional piece, because then I can piece together what that author was like saying about society, and I can get more off of that than I could from
Yeah.
Fox. You know what I
It's more
mean?
tactful. It's not bludgeoning you with a concept, and people are kind of
Exactly. It allows you.
tired
Like
of
you said.
that.
It walks you to it, and then like it allows you to
Yes.
gestate the idea yourself, and get to the, what is it? Walking the horse to the water, whatever.
Yeah, yeah. Lead a horse to water, you can't make him drink. But
Exactly.
most people are trying to make him drink and not leading the horse there. And yeah, it's tough. It's tough.
They're trying to put a feeding tube in you. Come on, motherfucker, drink fluoride.
Yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong at all. But it's there's things to learn in even the worst of circumstances. And I think writers and creators, artists, they just try and share what they learn, and that's the only way humanity as a thing, as a gestalt thought form, has progressed in any notable reason. Is we don't have to start from scratch again and again and again, but we do have to listen to not have to start from scratch again and again.
Yep.
And there's a lot more out there to listen to that's not of any real value. um, and it's tough to find the real value. I'm trying to provide that, but that doesn't mean I will to
Mm.
everybody. You're trying to provide that, and it is sadly in the same circumstance, and it doesn't mean you will to everybody, but we can try. And the more people who are trying, the more people who will be reached. And whether they're opposing ideas or harmonious ideas or whatever, it's growth. And I think that's the important thing. We stagnate, we will perish. I don't see. I mean, that's the ultimate stagnation is death. There's no more growth. There's just decay until nothing.
Mm.
So we don't need that. I don't think. Not on the societal level anyway. I think we can do better.
Yeah, and I mean, I had no social media prior to October of like this past October that just happened. And
Oh, okay.
I started the company within that same October. I started like everything happened just within recently. And it was exactly how you said. It was like the whole COVID thing. It was like at first like this whole idea of like, oh, we're locked in, but then it was the idea of like, oh yeah, but like, why be structured to the idea of like, of anything where you can just like sit down and just go over your own passions. I mean,
Mhm.
everyone like
Exactly.
everyone had the little stint of working at home, right? And like,
Yeah.
everyone went crazy for a little bit. I mean, in that time frame, I was like, oh, well, I can do that, or just, start writing or get back into the things that I like doing. And
Yeah. Oh
here
yeah. No,
we
you
are.
you adapt or you perish. It's how it
Exactly.
goes,
And I
and that's
haven't,
not a bad thing. It's just you got to watch how you're adapting because there are some adaptations that aren't always great.
man, I hear you. One of the things that kills me the most is when I see like certain people that I think are really, really talented and like I think can like do 100% great on their own merits, but then they kind of fall into the whole like social media thing. Know what I mean? They start like,
Hmm.
more provocative
Yeah.
pictures, you know what I mean? Out of nowhere. It's like, wait a minute, aren't we doing writing? And then,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, I mean, the
and,
paths we choose are all over the place, and I personally wouldn't give anybody any guff for choosing an easier path here and there, quote
that's
unquote easier. But
exactly.
I don't know what's right for anybody else, but I do know what's right for me, and it tends to be uh, the path I'm walking, and that's not always, as you said, the provocative path or the aggressive path is what I see a lot in comics in particular.
Mm,
People really go out for each other on the professional level. They go for each other and their jobs, and at the indie level. And even in crowdfunding specifically, they go for each other and their reputation. That's business, and again, that's part of the Famine Inc. Archetype there. But it's again, it's survival, it's adaptation, and it's this competition that I think is healthy because it allows growth. But there's a point where it becomes so competitive, neither individual is growing anymore,
mm,
and that's when you might want to reconsider the path you're walking at that point. I would hope.
mm. 100%. 100%. Well, that's the only reason is that like the only reason, and again, is that I know nothing. I've yet to make like I've yet, I'm not rolling the dough from anything that I've done yet so far either. So it's like, I have no reference. I have no idea what I'm talking about. But what I see in like the reason I wouldn't go down that route is for me is that it's kind of like the community that you interact with are like the people that are going to be supporting you. So
Yes.
if like what you post is 100% stuff like your art, things that you're doing related, things like that, meaning that every person that follows you like knows what they're getting. If you start
Yeah.
doing like the things that are just like popular, then the people that are following you are only following you because you're doing the trendy stuff, not because you're doing the you stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's been my thing too, and I've noticed it. People will hop on bandwagons because they're working, and then they stop working, and then that person's business, their work falters
Yeah.
because they bet on a horse that wasn't their own.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it goes back to trusting the government implicitly. It's you're betting on things that you can't possibly fathom,
Yeah.
and I would rather bet on things I at least partially understand. And there's some bets I would bet on the government, but they're not bets in my favor.
Mm.
So it's you do learn, but then you got to find out where you want to expend your energy. Because our most valuable resource is time. We've got only so much of it, and we're not even guaranteed a rough estimate of it. In all honesty, we don't know anything, but you got to use what you get, and if you keep getting it, keep using it. And I can't begrudge anybody for seeing that as well and saying, well, I should take advantage of this while it's hot. You
Yeah,
know,
really can't.
but then you have to be able to transition that, and I've seen that is almost harder to transition that heat off of something else to yourself than it is to just build your own heat.
That's 100. That really right there what you said. That's the TLRD basically,
Yeah.
TLDR basically of what I was
Yeah.
getting at, because that's again like a lot of this podcast is like kind of like getting people together to like we're like I can't say we're all indie here, but it's like a lot of people that I talk to are indie. I would
Mhm.
assume that a lot of people that are listening are at least like, budding or interested in themselves.
Yeah.
And it's one thing that I like to drive at like 100%. Like you need to build your own like little fire. And on top of that
Yeah.
is that everyone can exist within itself. I mean,
Yeah.
we live in a time right now that people are just like, Jesus. Netflix will drop 12 episodes, 1.5 hour each, and by on Friday 8 p.m. and by Friday 11, people are done with it.
Yeah.
Like with the entire thing. And if you do the math, it
Yeah.
doesn't even make sense. How did they finish the entire season? I mean, like, that doesn't even work. Listen, it doesn't matter. All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
People are crazy. People are
Yep.
crazy. And we are at the most content starved level, you know, like everyone can exist.
I think we're quality starved, content rich.
There that
And that's
hundred
that's the
percent
bit. There's not much, quality to absorb and feel satisfied with, but there's plenty of consumable content.
plenty. My God.
And so
My
you
mom
have to
has
find a way to rise above being consumable content to being a quality experience. And that's the goal. That's You're taking somebody's time, again, their most precious resource, and they're spending it on your artistry.
Yep.
Give it value.
Yep.
You have to. I
Yep.
mean, otherwise you're doing everybody in that exchange an injustice, except for you, I guess, if you're making money off of it. But then you are doing one person an injustice, and
Exactly.
so
Exactly.
it's a
Exactly.
business is a pain in the ass with
What
art,
did
but it's a worthy fight. I think it's a worthy fight.
exactly what did Romeo say to the apothecary when he was giving him the vial? He told him as he was giving him the gold coins, "Hey, listen, I'm giving you a worse poison you're giving me." I think that's one of Shakespeare's best quotes right there.
Yeah.
Um, uh, you were talking about the my God, what was it? Coyote, cactus, coyote.
Yes.
Can you go a little bit deeper into that? I love that the little
Yeah.
tagline that you threw out for that.
So he's so they all have kind of there's Lady Silverado, War Sword, Jack Irons, the Steel Cowboy, Tracker, Top Predator. This is the shiftiest and shadiest Cactus Coyote.
Mm,
Galactic Smuggler. He was an experiment of plagues. Plague needs to dispose of bio waste, and he found these creatures that have dimensions in their stomach. So he just pumped that bio waste into these creatures. Eventually, Cactus escapes. They're actually these adorable little pudgy things. He's a shapeshifter, but he found another form in the galaxy. He's like 7 years old or whatever. He loses his main drive. Is he's a gambler because he wants to take risks to better himself and the people he loves. And so he's always finds himself in debt. He always gets himself out of debt. And so that's the reoccurring theme in it. As a smuggler, he takes these very dangerous, high risk jobs to be able to pay for the next meal and whatever he owed the last guy. Um, and so it's a hard one to define. It's an everyman's journey. It really is from
mm,
from childhood to being a man and providing is what it kind of comes out to me. I'm not the creator writer, but I've read plenty. He has scripted out 576 issues.
whoa.
He is prolific at writing. It's insane. So I've read a lot of it, and I enjoy the hell out of the scripts. So we're working to manifest that right now. There is a 42-page manga available on Medibang, but just Ironverse Comics. You'll see the shiftiest shades. Cactus Coyote's got a nice little banner, way easier to find than remembering the keywords.
My God.
And just go check it out. It reads right to left like a manga, but The bit is that it's a little bit more accessible than Jack. It doesn't wallow in the same dark excesses to really drive them home like Jack does. It's more of the everyman's perception of them, where they exist, but they're just something that you have to deal with and live your life as best you can anyway, which is a very valuable perception. It's what keeps us going at the end of the day. Whereas Jack's more, he gave up, but he couldn't really give up. He couldn't leave, so he's been stuck with it, and so eventually he wants to change it. And that's where we hit issue 3, kind of started getting Jack moving. But I think Excalibur would be worth it towards folks. It's we entered it into the Tezuka manga contest this last year, which was kind of neat. It got us about 30K views on it, which was excellent.
Whoa.
But yeah, we didn't place. But I think it's worth folks' time. Their best way to check it out is to read it. The next step with that is he's got a 15-page traditional, what we're calling an ash can of Cactus, which is kind of an introductory episode, whatever you want to call it. That's again, it reads more like a traditional comic, and it has a little bit different art, more westernized art, and real nice colors. Same colorist from Jack Irons, and I'm excited to bring that out. Hopefully, after we get this Kickstarter for the trade paperback of numbers 1 through 3 of Jack out. I think that's part of our next steps. So free read though, 42-page free read if folks are interested. It's a gag manga. It's a little bit more goofy as well, a little bit more shticks and jokes here and there, and I think that helps bring some much needed levity to what Ironverse Comics really is at its heart, which is looking at some black and trying to bring light to it.
That's awesome. Are you a fan of Robert Rodriguez, Frank Miller?
Oh, so Robert Rodriguez was a big one recently. In fact, Dollar Coins made sure to get me Rebel Without a Crew, his book, and that was really inspiring. I read recently.
Yeah,
And
that guy's an animal.
just how he was able to manifest a Hollywood film from $7,000 at a trip to Mexico. I mean, at himself. I mean, and of course, that 7K also came from medical experiments.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that's a great self-made man story. Definitely worth folks checking out if you need some inspiration in these hard times, and some idea of, yeah, you can make it from nothing. It does happen. It's not all that common, but it does happen. Frank Miller, I'm a fan too. His of course, his Man Without Fear run on Daredevil, big influence. But Sin City and the movies as well did quite a bit. 300, all that. It got, those were the earlier comic book films that still had heat, but didn't have this same stigma of being like an MCU movie or a DCU movie. It was a comic movie, but it was more like, this is a action movie. This is a piece of cinema, more than it's a boxed in type of cinema, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, like all those movies are considered superhero movies. They're not considered movies.
Yes.
Like literally, if you look up like them and like ranking, they're not ranked in the same like movie rankings.
Yeah.
Which is like, okay, they didn't make like $3 billion. Okay, whatever. Hater.
Yeah. But no, the cinematography, I'm a big fan of Del Toro's Hellboy 2 as well. There's something that I think happens with comic book movies that allows some of the creatives to really be creative. And that's one of them. The most recent Hellboy, not so much, but that second one, and the first one was pretty good, but the second one, Del Toro took something, put some magic in there. And I'm a big fan of film.
Into the Spider-Verse, though? Oh, my God.
Oh, that was good. That was really good. Out of nowhere with an art style that nobody would have expected, with an animated movie, which nobody would have really given much credence to, and had some heart and some exchange. And it delved into the multiverse and didn't treat it like it's this huge fandom breaking deal, when you dive into that. It was very cool.
And it was so funny. Like the little like just like in betweens that were just like hilarious. I can't remember. There's one time that he's like having like it's kind of like the famous scene when he's like when he starts getting his spider powers, and like he's like hearing his own voice in his head and whatnot, and then he starts like running away from the security guard, and act stupid, and then the guy goes like, "What's your name?" He goes like, "What's the name?" And he goes like, "Not that stupid," and then he just like keeps running away anyway.
No,
Oh
there
man.
was it was written quite well, and it was the proper way to present a mantle exchange.
Yeah.
And that's very rare in comics that they can do it to a point that doesn't feel insulting to everybody involved. And that was one of them. I was proud to see everybody enjoyed that, and that it gave animated film a little bit more credence, in
Oh,
particular in the
definitely.
comic book end, because really I think you could probably make some extraordinary animated comic book movies for a quarter, a tenth the budget of an MCU film with paying all those actors and all of that. And I think you could do galactic scale big stuff that looks better and is more artistically true to the expression of what the comics are.
Oh
But
yeah.
I still love me some MCU films. I do. I'm a sucker for them.
Well, the thing is that I'm also a huge fan of film, and
Yeah.
like Robert Rodriguez actually, I
Oh,
actually
Alita Battle Angel. That was a good manga adaptation. He did pretty good in that. That was his attempt in there.
have you seen Machete?
I have. I love
Oh
Machete.
my God, what a
Daddy
good movie!
Trejo's a beast. I love that guy.
Jesus, man, those movies are
When he
just
ran out
so
the
great.
hospital, carry on the guy's intestines to swing down to another floor.
Woo! Dude, oh my God.
Gets the guy with the weed whacker. I mean, there's so many great scenes in that.
And Machete kills Sofia Vergara.
Yeah.
Sofia Vergara. I mean, goddess. Homegirl turns around to the girl that literally was in Spy Kids, who's now wearing
Yeah.
a bra that has spikes on it, and goes like, yo, get me my double D's. And Homegirl puts on Gatling gun titties.
Yes.
Like, I mean, that movie is so great. I don't know what it is. It's like when I watch a movie and there's even a smallest plot hole, it ruins it for me. But for whatever
Yeah.
reason, when you ruin it in the beginning, it's like all right, yeah. Who
No,
cares?
when you're honest up front about your absurdity, then people are in for it.
It
But
makes
if
a
you
phenomenon.
lie and kind of work there, and then like some of the recent Disney Star Wars films, they kind of did the opposite, where we've got this absurdity, but we're not going to show the hand of it until it's too late. And very much different with Robert Rodriguez.
Palpatine
Quentin
rises.
Tarantino, a
Oh,
lot of those more brutal, uh, uh, more kind of indie feeling directors, um, they don't do that. They know what they're making,
oh
and
yeah.
they are honest about it.
John Favreau. I mean,
Yeah, he does really good.
God,
I mean, he's honest
God's
about it.
work.
His worst film though is that Lion King documentary. Basically, it's got no soul. I don't know how they were able to suck the soul out of Lion King, but they did it.
Favreau did
Um,
Lion King.
yeah, he was the director on
You
the
know
Lion
they
King
just paid
remake.
him. You know they just
They
paid him.
probably did.
That
They
wasn't a
probably
passion
did, but
project.
he definitely did the interviews talking about, well, why did you choose this? And he was told
Well,
what
you
to
know
do
how it
with
is.
it.
You know how
But
it is.
nonetheless,
That
no.
and
But with the
the
Mandalorian,
other
for
one.
instance, he was able to revive Star Wars from where it kind of had been. I've been loving the Mandalorian quite a
Oh my
bit. So
god.
so
I'm
I mean, I can give some credit to these bigger companies and these creatives, particularly because these creatives are surviving in that Shark Tank, but and can still get some amazing art out. So I always give that credit, but I just wish it wasn't a Shark Tank.
no. Yeah, oh my god. It's the one thing that it like kills you because because all right. So we're talking all these great things about MCU, right?
Yeah,
Are we gonna say even a peep about about DC? Hell no.
yeah,
They blow,
yeah.
bro. They can't make a
Yeah,
solid
God,
movie.
Wonder Woman 84. I had a
Oh
lot of hope
my
with that movie. And I was
god,
like,
me
this is
too.
okay. And then they take 15 minutes. Well, it felt like 15
Oh
minutes.
my
They take,
god.
the only reason for the 80s themes at all was to give Chris Pine a reason to dress up in different period outfits. Like that was the
No,
only reason I saw throughout that entire film.
the
That
only
was,
reason they did that is because like some marketing guy got together and was like, "Oh yeah, people like this whole
yeah,
retro
marketing.
whatever.
Yeah.
What haven't they done yet? 80s, all right, throw that on there."
Yeah.
No heart and like really like all the people that were involved on that should have done made that movie amazing. Kristen
The
Wiig
first one
is a
was
great
pretty
actress.
damn great. I love that movie. There's certain scenes of that film that were very iconic and touching. Yeah, even though they were very ham-fisted. Her walking out of the trench into no man's land. Yeah, that's very ham-fisted. But nonetheless, it is a powerful message of strength in even that part of darkness,
Hmm.
of being the light that you need to see. We need our heroes. I didn't get that out of the sequel at all. I got a woman who's hurting, being forced into a position with a man who's hurting, and none of it ending well. She can fly at the end.
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Spoiler alert, but the villain, wanna know what happens to him? He literally just goes like, you know what? Never mind. And that's it.
Yeah, and then goes and finds his kid,
That's
which
it.
if
That's
he
the
had
end.
that in his
That's the end.
heart from the beginning, he wouldn't. But I don't know. It was not a well put together film like the first one was.
No,
I had a lot of high hopes. Even Aquaman was all right.
all right, all
I was
right,
like, yeah, they're
all
on an
right.
upswing at least a little bit. But
Justice
no,
League,
no.
all
Ooh.
those movies. I mean, like, and the thing that
They
kills
have
me,
hope. They have hope
exact.
for the Snyder cut, and I'm like, I'm gonna watch it just because it's a really
I
long
actually
comic.
did. I did,
Oh,
and
did you?
nothing.
Ooh,
Still nothing. That
no.
well,
Oh,
Snyder Cut is the one that was on HBO Max, right? That was like 3
yeah,
hours something. Yeah, nothing.
yeah.
They
Oh,
added like
really?
about a 15 more minutes. That was actually like, oh, okay, kind of cool, but still, it was like, all right,
Yeah, okay. I kind of expected that
15
when they
minutes
cut
for
out a lot of
3
the
hours something.
coolest bits
Look, all right, look.
from the Justice League. No Martian Manhunter, no Green Lantern, no,
Wait, was that
It
supposed to be
was
in there?
Martian
Well, like from
Manhunter might
the
have
comic
been.
books. Okay,
Yes, and
I thought
that's
it
the
was
bit.
scrapped,
And
like that they made it and they put into the movie. I
yeah,
was like, all right, that's stupid.
and Zack Snyder's another guy who likes to wallow in his darkness. He was just fine for the Watchmen, not so much for Big Blue, not for Superman, who's supposed to be a beacon of hope, the Ubermensch, the ideal.
He
It
killed.
doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah, like to me,
it
that could
it
be a case study in like how to ruin everything. So you took Batman, who's supposed to be a brooding person,
yeah
and made him into a schoolgirl that literally, like when Superman
yeah
came
makes
around, he was like,
jokes.
"Oh, hey, Superman." And like
Yeah.
they even put that joke in. He was like, "No, Batman doesn't do that." But they made Batman kill people. What are we
Yeah.
talking about? Like even the
Yeah.
Frank Miller version, it was like him starting branding people and getting to that point. But like in this movie, he was straight killing people. I don't like the point
Yeah.
when he has the Batmobile and he's like chasing people,
Yeah.
throwing
They're just shooting
bombs and
people with
guns.
his
I was like,
Gatling
dude,
guns. Yeah.
I'm like, dude, he just killed like 50 people. Killed.
Yeah.
Not like, oh, my legs hurt. Like, nah, they're dead.
Modern art and where its funding comes from is for deconstruction, and particularly deconstruction of ideals so that they can
Mm.
be rebuilt. Superman is a thought form, it's an idea. Batman is a thought form, it's an idea. So you need to change that so that it'll fit your corporate box and where you're trying to guide things. Uh, as you could tell, and I said earlier, I deal in thought forms. I see this all the time, and it breaks my heart. But all we can do is manifest the same ones in a different form. And you'll see that again and again. Like they broke Captain Marvel from who he used to be. Now they even had to rename him, call him Shazam instead, which is just that's the wizard's name. But he was this idealistic little young man who's given the powers of an adult, and he could put his child's heart into how he interacts with that adult, strong, godlike power. And that was so important. And Shazam was all right as a movie, but it was not a Captain Marvel movie. It wasn't a Billy Batson movie. It was
Mm.
something else. And I'm sad to see these very powerful ideas that have lasted so long because they are powerful being twisted, altered, degraded, and reshaped. And I get why. It's the same reason, a lot of things are done from a position of power,
Yeah,
but
money.
I don't think it's the best path for growth for us as a society. These ideals do matter. And the fact that they may be unreachable makes them matter that much more. We need carrots at the end of the stick, not to just curse that it's on a stick forever. That's not going to
Yeah,
help anybody. You're not going to get anywhere. You're just going to sit there. You're not following the carrot anymore. it's uh,
yeah,
it's a tough one, and so that's what I in Ironverse Comics again. I instead of these positive, really strong ideals, I'm taking these negative ones that are used to pervert some others and showing what they are, and hopefully trying to give a different perspective on them. That's all. I'm a little thing in this big machine here, this big blue ball machine, and again, just try and leave it better than we left it, not rebuild it in your image. That's what bugs me.
I know it's so weird, and it's actually funny that you brought up like organically Wonder Woman because I had that epiphany after I watched because I was bitching about how bad it was and just like talking about like oh who wrote this like almost getting generally mad. It was like all right, literally like I'm over here busting my ass and like I know so many like other indie authors and like so many people that are talented and all these people that like like have like a great presence and all these things but like aren't to these people's level and it's like all right like how are these people in like the indie community like at this level and these people are cranking out
Yeah.
shit at the height
Yeah.
but then like I finally I had like an epiphany like wait a minute the people that write this aren't shit is that
No.
it got formed to shit. Like the
Yeah.
people, like literally that writing room, what that writing room
Yep.
consists of are people like the people that you're mentioning, like the indie authors, right? After
Yeah.
10 years of working on that craft and honing it to the point that they got to that to the level
Yeah.
to be in that writing room. And then when they got there, it's the same thing that like when you go to work and like your boss tells you to do something and you're like, wait, that's not gonna work, but you have to listen to it
Yeah.
because it's your boss.
Yeah.
It's the
No, it's the
same
same
thing that
thing.
happens, but just creative,
The
you know?
and the marketing execs and honestly the diplomas have taken over art, and that's a problem because it's rigidly controlled, and art is an antithesis to control. It is
Yep.
chaos manifested in a communication, which is the least aggressive way it can manifest. But when you're trying to control that, you're not gonna get the highest quality. I'm sure with the Mandalorian, named John Favreau made a hell of a pitch, and it fucking won. And he got, since his Iron Man cred, and probably with a little help from Kevin Feige as well, all the money makers at Disney kind of had to listen and give him a shot. At the least, it would have failed and had one season. Big whoop. But it didn't. It actually revived quite a lot. So it's not as evil as some would like to think it is, and it's certainly not as good as many do think it is.
Mm.
And as you said, getting in that writing room contains marketing execs, it contains
Yep.
financial officers, it contains the president of the company who has an idea of what message that company wants to put out on any specific idea, and the branding has to remain consistent. It's got the Famine Inc. attitude to it. You're
Yep.
not going to beat that. You're not going to beat it. You're just going to have to write it out and see if you can use it. And some of the best pieces of cinema and art that we've gotten were from artists creative and talented enough to ride that Shark Tank
Mhm.
and to be able to do something out of it. But again, I think there's something more out there that we're being deprived of in terms of capability of creation that we can all work to manifest more of. Just any kind of indie business. That's how it works. You don't want your cell phone built by slave kids in China. You kind of have to find another way to get those rare earth minerals. But as long as you're getting them from there, you're probably too lazy to be the one guy to figure that out, aren't you? So it's a tough one. it's a it's a tough one, society. But you do the best you can, right? And you just got to hope everybody else is trying that too, even though sometimes it's
God,
not.
you are speaking truth. It is unreal. Well, that's the whole point of Ironverse Comics.
Yeah.
Uh, my, my God, it's it's everything that you said. It's 100% true because like because not only is it a creation point, but it is audience level. You know what I mean? Like
Oh, absolutely.
you can talk about the conspiracy of news all you want, but at the end of
Yeah,
the
yeah,
day,
yeah.
the reason they're doing it is because people are listening. And for whatever reason, people just got sick of
Yep.
listening to negativity. And like, oh no, I want to listen. I want to hear dogs and like I don't know. Kids in Africa like getting better education. Then I
Yep.
promise you, the news will switch to that because they want your money.
Yep.
All right,
Yep.
fuck this like high school conspiracy that they're out to kill you. They're not out to kill you. If you're dead, they can't make money off you. They want,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
I mean, at the end of the day, there's always the possibility that their goal would be to manifest a world where it's eternal robot servitude to a very small elite class. But
Well, you have to
nonetheless,
finance
I have no idea of any of that higher level.
that.
But the point is, most power that's so massive that it can cause genocide, that it can cause these horrendous things to happen, is given by the people.
Mhm.
It's taken by power, but it is given by the people. It is a complacency and an acceptance that allows it. And so by accepting this fear being shoved down our throats, or by accepting this par very low quality media being shoved down our throats, yeah, it's on us just as much, and that's how it gets its power. It
Yep.
couldn't just do it. It would be shunned, it would be shamed. If it started from a point of nothing and tried to push the same thing, it would be outcompeted. But it's not, because it is a normality, and humans like normality, whether or not it's a good normality.
I'm telling you, you want to complain about like not enough originality in like Hollywood. Stop
Yeah,
showing up for Fast and Furious every single time it drops.
yeah, there wouldn't
Like
be nine of them.
I promise you. You think they're crazy? You think they're doing that like for fun? Nah, it's because it makes hella fucking money, and they're gonna keep on
Yeah.
cranking it if you keep showing up. If you want, which is again, it's like it's the same thing. I mean, my mom has a $40. I couldn't believe it was that much. $40 book from Obama. That, I mean,
Mhm.
I'm not saying anything about disparaging about the ex president, but what I'm
Yeah.
saying is that, like, do you really think he needs your financial support? And two, do you think he wrote that? You really think Obama was sitting at a stationery cranking it out, going through the editing phases? You know how annoying editing is? You think the ex-president was doing that? My
I
God.
mean, he
Be real.
might have, but
Be
yeah,
realistic.
shadow authors are a thing, folks. There's no question
You
at
know what I
all.
mean? And you're gonna drop $40. Like, I remember when I heard that, I got
Yeah.
legitimately mad because, like, at that time I had started doing a podcast.
He's taken care of for life
You know
by
what I
the
mean?
people he allegedly served already. It's
Yeah,
not
the
something
banks.
that they should be seeking additional. I agree 100%. I think public servants should remain public servants, not be served. And that comes from a bunch of different perspectives, whether it's the cult of personality, or it comes from financial support beyond, somebody arguing to feed the poor while they have six empty houses waiting for them to kind of jump between once in a while, because they ski here for 1 month and they go out here for the summer to hunt or whatever. It's the
Yep.
hypocrisy that we accept is insanity to me, but it's easier to accept than the work that we'd have to do to change it. And
Mhm.
so the work that we'd have to do to change it is almost inconceivable. It's become that point. Just keep leaving and planting seeds and hope one of them sprouts.
No, and I'm telling you, and half the reason it wasn't just everything you addressed there, which again, 100%,
Yeah.
but it's the whole thing that it's like, all right, where's the love for the indie? That $40
Yeah.
Obama book would have literally supported, and not just supported, it would have made the day of like
Oh,
40 authors.
massive.
It would have
Yep.
made the day.
Just a
Like,
dollar.
literally,
Yep.
that $1 would have, like
Yep.
I'm telling you, it would have been a
No, it
Reddit
keeps it
post.
going.
It would have been
No, it keeps going.
one person
That's fan
would have
art
been
is
like,
the
oh
biggest
my
one, because I
God.
knew somebody put 5-10 hours on some pieces just to show it of
Yep.
my idea of something that we've manifested. It's a massive, beautiful energy that is often being fed and directed to these monolithic, heartless corporations at the end of the day.
But
And
they're
people
they're
know this.
taking
People
away
have
the
always known
art.
this. People love indie. They have brothers, sisters, daughters, sons, grandfathers who are artists. They would love to see them be successful. Those are independent folks. And sometimes, yes, there's a lot. We were talking about this, the benefit of going up into the corporate shark tank and still being able to manifest something.
Mm.
Yes, that does happen. That's the great minority of artists. By far, almost every human is capable of some form of art. And,
Mm-hmm.
and the fact that we deny each other that by funneling the energy necessary to manifest those arts up to these beasts, it's heartbreaking. It's
Yep.
why I stay in indie. It's why I work with indie publishers. I support indie artists and creators, because I know we can offer each other better, and we're not going to do it by doing the same thing we've been doing for 100, 250 years. It's just not going to work.
Yep. I'm 100% with you, especially like with how everything is going with streaming. How
Yep.
I mean, Amazon is getting a little fucky with how they're pricing things, but still, as far as a
Mhm.
platform goes, especially compared to
Yeah.
traditional brick and mortar, I mean, like
Yeah.
everything platforms are rising, and competition is just like is heating up. That is going to allow the indie platform to be much more not only accessible but hopefully
Yes.
more profitable because I like
That's yeah.
because I'm telling you, everyone loves to say that like they're not in this for the money, but listen, I mean, like it's not a thing about being money. I'm not saying that like like authors need to be like rappers, like having like gold chains,
Oh yeah.
Penguin Publishing, like doing drive-bys to like Dark Horse or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to get to that
No.
level. What I'm saying is that like you need to at least be able to not worry about
Provide. Make a
not worry
living
about a
off of
40 hour. Listen,
yeah.
a 40-hour work week does a lot to a psyche, man. It
Yeah,
really
it does.
constricts artistry by a lot. I'm telling you, if you've
Yes.
never tried it, if you only treat your art as a hobby, I recommend, like, if you have the
Yeah.
financial ability to, or
Yeah.
something, take because I know like when you go on vacation, you just want to be on vacation, but try to go on a vacation and just working on your hobby for like that. I'm telling you, a new level of energy will arise. There is something about a 40-hour work week that just constricts you. Even if you're not
No, it
working on it,
does.
even on the weekend when you're not currently working on it, it's just like the image of it like playing in your head. It's just like it does something to you. I don't know what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, there's lots of other
You
occupations too that are absolutely necessary to society. Artists are self-important. I mean, that's all we're talking about this whole time. We're very
mm-hmm,
self-important. It's how it goes. But uh, it's I think it's there because it's part of most everybody in some form or another. Now they might not have that skill shown to them at a point where they can hone it and actually put faith into it to make something out of it or whatever. But it's the fact is honestly just I was saying earlier how much you want to give of your life of your time to this greater machine and what parts of that greater machine you think are worthy of giving that effort to, whether it's on your own or whether it's supporting an artist you love or your normal job supports maybe the structural part of the machine, but maybe you want one that looks nice and is polished and is makes you feel good to look at and work on. That's kind of what art helps provide, and it's tough. I would hope there's enough room for absolutely everybody to manifest something to plant those seeds because again I only have so much time to plant as many as I can. You only have as much time as you can to do yours, and the more people doing it the more likely something will grow, and that's the goal. We've consistently as a people as humans left things better than we found it in the long run. Now,
mm-hmm,
not in the short term. In the short term, we spit, we kick, we shit all over it. But in the long term, I'm not so worried about the local lord dragging me out of my house and whipping me in front of my wife and then taking her inside and doing what he will anymore.
mm,
That's better. And that was how things were since like caveman times. Somebody stronger and bigger than you being able to do what they want with you. We have gotten better on these grandiose ideological bits, and that has in turn manifested slightly better lives overall. But we're still not at a point where we can ever give up. This
mm,
this is not a good place to stop. Just like
mm,
10 years ago wasn't a good place to stop. 50 years ago wasn't a good place to stop. Um, there's no stopping if we really want to look at dreams and imagination and all this wonder and possibility of the cosmos and the universe that we can stop. But we certainly get tired, and I think that's when we start hurting each other. So we just get tired, and we need things this way. So you better
mm.
fall in line. Hopefully, it continues to come and go in phases.
Well, I really do have I want to say no, no, no. I do have a pretty high faith that people just, again, there's a tipping point. We're seeing a lot of like, I think what people are we're seeing a lot is just like knee-jerk reactions to things. I think when things like simmer down, at least. I mean, I don't know. I really don't know, because like
Yeah.
it's so easy to say that things are gonna simmer down, but like
Yep.
I guess that's what you. I mean, that's probably what people that were buying a Betamax said about the VHS. Like, no, that's gonna
Yep.
simmer down. People aren't gonna.
Yeah.
That's not gonna how it's
Yeah.
gonna go. So like you always have to like consider that like, nah, this could 100% be the change. This could 100% be the new
Hmm.
wave.
Yeah.
But why worry about it? Just make sure you got a
That's
surfboard.
why I'm like, caution, not fear. I
Exactly.
wouldn't have much problems with to breed caution. You have to breed thought, because somebody has to understand the fear to be cautious of it. If you're just
Exactly.
breeding fear, they don't have to understand anything about it. They will just react.
Yep.
uh, and that's what scares me about all this. It's not a lot of other things. It's that those who have the most responsibility, the most power, the Spider-Man line, uh, are not ethically using it in a way that they could, and then when they're called out on it, they are surprised and aggravated and made worse about it, and then they breed that into folks who want to believe in a hierarchy that's protective. And
Yep.
I believe a lot of our societal hierarchies, from the father to a lot of others, are a protective thing. But there's there's a responsibility in that has to be consistently shown, or else faith in that power and that responsibility you have is completely eroded, and then you're left with a lot of unruly children who don't want to listen to you, and that's not how you take care of these big issues we're facing. um, and the same thing is, you can't expect everybody to fall in line either. You have to give the kids room to grow. So I want to see that. I want to see caution, but understanding that we're going to get scraped knees. Not this no one should ever get hurt ever kind of idea, because you should be afraid of being hurt. um, that's not safe. That's just not how life works, and it's a spooky thing to see manifest stronger and stronger as we get further into this, whatever it is. But
Mm-hmm.
but again, I'm doing my thing. I'm making little modern folk tales to try and put a different perspective on it than the one that's prevailing right now. So we'll see.
I'm telling you, don't you love how people that literally couldn't, you went to high school with them and they couldn't even pass biology, are now basically talking like they have a lab coat and they studied at Brown for like 15 years under,
Yeah, it's
their
the
doctorate in microbiology. It's like, wait a minute. Didn't you just go on, whatever the fuck.com and read, and you're just reading verbatim,
or honorary
missed
degree.
correctly, by the way. You're just spitting out what you heard. And
Yeah,
and what kills me the most is that when you fight that logic, it's like, oh yeah, but you're not a scientist. Like, Dick, neither are you. You think you're somehow
yeah.
more informed just because you read it? Like, dude, what are you
That's the
talking about?
bit. No, I know it bothers me quite a bit too. It's again, we've been pushing this for years now. As I mean, there's a lot of ideologies and a lot of governments that push this, but it's that divisive bit. It's taking the individual and making them less valuable than society. And
Mm-hmm.
so when you do that, you can make labels gods. This person's a doctor, so now they have the authority on this, even though they cannot prove it to you. You can't understand it. So it's like, well, just follow along and just get the hell in line.
And
It's
it's a
that
field.
attitude. It's yeah. It's people need to be educated. They don't want to be educated. So those who do want to be educated, or at least want the appearance of education, can get it. And again, it's that use of power. It has to be used responsibly, and sometimes dollar signs change that opinion. Sometimes a gun to the head changes that opinion. Sometimes an idea you have will change your opinion on something. Well, this isn't this bad, but it could be. So let's treat it as if it is. That's dangerous. It's not logical. It's not responsible. And Yeah, it's a hard world out there. I have faith. I'll always, be running for the little guy. So we'll see. Usually the little guy gets a time. It's usually much rougher for a while, but then it peters out and there's a grace period, and then we go through the cycle again. But a big thing of me for me is always not getting lost in a circle, but trying to make it an upward spiral. So you're
Mm.
going through similar notes, similar harmonies, similar things, but you're growing, you're getting bigger, you're going outward instead of being stuck in a loop. And my worry is that we will get stuck in a loop, and once you're closed in that loop, it takes quite a bit to break it back into a spiral, and one that's not downward too. That's worse than the circle often.
Mm.
But it's tough. I have faith. But I've apparently, especially recently, last year and change, it's been hard. It's mentally taxing to everybody, and so I give everybody some room to make mistakes at times like this, and even those in power. Who should be doing better? They're human too. So it's a tough one. It's a tough one, and I can only again try my best to leave it better than I found it.
Yeah, it's less. It's like it's honestly what you were talking about in the beginning of the podcast. It's kind of the idea that you start kind of growing up and your ideas of like of the world start kind of like maturing in like a
Yes.
different way. Is that like when I grew up? It's like I 100%. And again, it makes sense because I grew up Catholic, and then you start kind of like questioning the belief in Catholic, and then like religion, if you're raised in it, is the foundation for everything. So when you start
Yep.
questioning the religion, it basically it puts cracks in the foundation, which is like
Yeah.
gets filled with all these other things, and like you have to really start building up like your whole like thought process on everything like back up from like the beginning. So
Yeah.
one thing that like that I started like building myself up on is that like those cracks get like filled in with like conspiracies. It's like, oh, let me tell you this. Oh, you think the Pope is doing that, right? And like,
Uh,
the thing that I had to like mature out of is like the idea that like there's no one against you. Is that like
yeah.
everyone is just doing their version of survival and they're
Yeah.
misguided. It's like
Yeah.
it's basically the like it's like forgive them, they know not what they do. We don't.
Yep.
We don't know what we do.
No.
That's the whole thing.
Exactly.
We're just in a
Yeah.
whole. We're in a loop. We just keep on.
Yeah.
Like, we have no idea.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't have enough time to, we don't even have enough time in this life to truly get to know one other person. One other person.
Yeah.
And we have 7 billion people on this planet trying to figure it out. It's absolutely amazing that we are able to do as good as we do. I mean, I keep thinking that too. And when people are talking about self-driving cars and stuff, I keep thinking, that's interesting. It's cool, whatever. But the fact that we have as few car crashes as we have with how many people are on the road every day, hours and hours a day, it's absolutely incredible that we are able to adjust to this system that can benefit everybody and make sure that this thing can work without hurting, with hurting as few people as possible. And that's the thing I think we're having trouble with right now, again, is trying to figure out how to hurt as few people as possible while still surviving and doing what we need to do. And that's a
Mm.
tough one. I can't say I would ever want to be in a position to be making those kind of decisions, for God's sake. That's a rough one if you're treating it with any level of humanity.
Oh,
And if you're
especially.
not, well, then maybe that's why you're there. But nonetheless, it's a very interesting. I don't want to call it a game, but it's a bit of a game because pieces move, rules change, and things kind of work out to some kind of end goal one way or another. And yeah, like you were saying about your experiences with Catholicism, I grew up with no rigid religious doctrine. My father did a lot of meditation and such with yogis. He's an old man. He's 81 right now. I'm 28, so we had a bit of a generational divide there. But
Mm.
but he passed on a more loose cosmos, that hippie kind of feel to me. My mother went through. She was born Protestant. She went through that relatively uh, rigidly
Mm.
for as long as she stayed. She ran away at 14, so it wasn't that long. But and then she went to Judaism for a while. And then from Judaism, she moved back to Protestantism,
No,
and
that's
she
interesting.
never really took a solid doctrine either. So I've been blessed with a open perception to all of these coexisting concepts that are big concepts, big things that we've been wrangling for since we were drawing on caves and thinking of something greater than just the next meal.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've tried to integrate that into my work. I've tried to integrate that into my life because it's a massive banquet out there, and if you deny yourself of most of it, you're gonna be not as well prepared as you could be. But there's ways to stay in that rigidity and still be able to adapt and move and live and do well. But it's again, there's I have a hard time believing there's any one right answer capable of human comprehension.
Exactly.
And
Which is why I don't
so
get the
so
argument.
as long as somebody comes at me with that same ideas, like, I have an idea of what's going on, but I can't really know, then we're gonna be fine. We're gonna be just fine, because that's truth, that's honesty, that's a basis we can come from. And when people are saying they're the based on maybe a specific label or degree or something, they're the be all end all on any specific subject. I was like, look at that subject 50 years ago. There was another round of people who were the be all end all of it, and they were fucking wrong, weren't they?
Hella. Like that's like it's always like I'm telling you, I never I've said it before. I truly believe that the most harmful aspect of humankind, which is actually the double-sided blade because it's also the best, is
Mhm.
conviction. Is that like conviction can
Yeah.
literally create,
Yeah.
the most the height of civilization, or it can literally, create the crusades. It can
Yep.
somebody can just wake up and be like, hey, you know what? Yeah, another group of people don't deserve this as much as I do, and like the conviction will literally drive you to go
Yep.
into another island that you've never been to and been like, oh yeah, you worship idols? Nah, nah, nah. Listen, this guy on the
Ah.
cross, motherfucker.
I forgot what it's called, but the Spanish, their justification, their right from the king and from the Pope and such when they came over,
Yeah, the
their
Queen
declaration. I
Isabella.
forget something remorte or something. It's so horrific.
Yeah, dude.
These people couldn't understand what they were saying, and they were being told, if you do not bow before us, you're not bound before God, and therefore we have the right to murder you.
Yeah.
Uh, that's a hell of a thing for a person to say to another person, but they weren't saying it to another person. They were saying it to something they considered lower than an animal. And,
Yeah.
and they didn't treat animals very well back then either. And that's a big
Uh,
one that's actually gotten a huge boost in humanity is animal rights. We don't give it enough credit.
that's a really good point. That is true.
That's one of the few places we've made massive strides over just, maybe even 50 years, 60 years, something like, well, I guess it's closer to, it's 2020 now, so about 70 years. And for a long time, they were just something to be used like a plant or any other resource. And we're getting better there too. And I think if we can treat other things kinder, maybe we can treat each other a little kinder.
Well, I have to be honest. It's like is that we're getting into a point that like I don't know, the things are getting like one big thing that's actually like the moment you said the number 7 billion, it just kind of popped into my head again. Like, oh my god, yeah, we have 7 billion people. I remember when I first Googled that number up when I was a kid, it was 6 billion. And
Mm-hmm.
when my mom was a kid, it was like 2 to 3 billion. And we're at
Yeah.
7 billion right now. Now,
Yeah.
you don't have to be a math expert to realize that we're hitting some pretty big numbers.
Yeah.
And you also don't have to be a math expert to realize that, like, resources are, I mean, all right, just to give you a quick mental experiment, the wars that we have right now are over resources that we have in abundance.
Yep.
Imagine what happens when our resources start dwindling. Dude,
Yep.
you think
Yeah, no, that's the whole idea of Mad
we've
Max.
literally have not seen war yet, if that's where we're at.
Yeah.
Literally,
I
all
mean,
wars we've had have been over things that we've had in abundance. It's over one group just being like, hey, we want more. We've
yeah.
never had one group being like, nah, we have zero, and those highs have, 0 plus 1, and we need that plus 1.
Yeah. No, and then we are scrappy bastards. We will go to no end to
Oh,
survive. So
and
I'm not
prudence.
surprised. There's conspiracies about depopulation and all that fun stuff. I'm not surprised by it. I don't believe there's much of a limit to the atrocities humankind would be willing to commit to survive. But I do think we can be better. I do think that we were promised from our own perspective, from our own experiences, a near unlimited future. Uh, we've even taken reaches out to that future, not very far, but we've gotten there a couple times, and we've actually got a couple chunks of us that'll last a couple billion years shooting out of our galaxy right now. I mean, we have a chance to avoid all of that, and it's not going to be through massive oppression. I don't think that's going to do it. I think that's just going to get us to a point where we're stuck in a circle till the circle decays into nothing. um, but I don't know. I think there's plenty of hope. I think resources and our ability to comprehend the physics and nature of reality and to manifest new things is always unlimited. You never know when somebody else can. Again, Jack Irons, Steel Cowboy #2. Somebody made
Yeah,
some food,
exactly.
that could come out of nowhere, even though everybody was starving and the global powers are actually using that to control people. Um, it's I don't the sky's never been the limit. It's infinity has been the limit, and by definition, infinity has no limit. So I think we're good if we're willing to grow the hell up. And I want to say and share, but that's not just it, because a lot of that needs to be enforced, and I don't think that's the way to do it either. So it's a tough one that I hope, with 7 billion minds cranking at it every day. I think there's a
Like
possibility
eight
somebody will
billion in a
figure it
couple
out.
years.
Yeah, I think there's a chance somebody will figure it out. My hope is it's not. Uh, my hope is that we don't give in to the darker impulses that say, yeah, I think the only way we
Yeah, we
survive
got
is
to
by
start wiping people
eliminating
out.
this. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't. That's my hope, because yeah, that's the obvious answer, and I think that's the coward's answer, because I doubt you're on that list, are you?
No,
So
no, no,
yeah,
no. Well,
that's the thing.
the
Yeah,
reason
the
I bring
coward.
it up
Yeah,
is that it's the reason. Well, it's the reason I write. It's the like I said it right that you were
yeah,
talking a little about before. Is that like we write dystopia, and like
yeah.
the heart of dystopia is taking utopia and twisting it, right? So
Yes.
like one of I don't have an answer. By
Yep.
the way, I mean most of the things that I propose are just philosophical questions. I mean like
Yep.
the reason yes is because like that's kind of the inspiration for writing is because like there is no answer. I mean, it's a genuine question. What do you
Yep.
do when like I'll be honest with you, I've this is the first time I had that thought. Like really, what war is for abundance. Like what is war when you're fighting over a true like this side if this side doesn't get that resources this side dies. We haven't seen
The
that type of war
closest we
yet.
get to that, which is on a smaller scale, is what we end up calling a revolution, and that is
Yeah,
a abundance of power in a single
yeah,
place, and that abundance is more of a monopoly, and so it needs to be broken.
yeah,
Uh, and that's the closest we get. And you check out the French Revolution, you check out the American Revolution, but the French one in particular, if you
yeah, the
want
French one,
the
yeah,
horrors of man.
yeah,
Um,
they
I
were
mean, even the
stringing people
Dutch
out,
at one
yeah.
point ate their prime minister. They strung him up and they ate him because they hated him so much that they thought that shitting him out was disgracing his soul. Um, it was. I mean, people. We'll go pretty far, and that's my thing too. We have this other perception of say the Skynet dystopia, the machine god being manifested and then being stronger than us and destroying its creator, much as Nietzsche said we killed God. It's a more similar idea than some folks think, but it's not the same. He meant it more metaphorically in having an idea of this greater thing taking care of you, like we're talking about Mary Shelley. But but with Skynet, it's more the kid overtaking the parent, and I'm not so worried about that because if we got that far, I don't think we would probably deserve to be around.
Man,
Because to
yes,
manifest
exactly.
a sentience that would be so cruel as to destroy its parents to such a degree, we would probably be deserving that. It'd be very hard not to say, enslaving this new life or what have you. And so I don't know. I write dystopia exactly because I'm hopeful. I write it because I think these ideas are things that need to be explored, and I'm not
Hmm.
afraid to look them in the eye. And I don't think any of us should be because these are things coming to a head, as you're saying. Where we will run out of resources if we keep where we're going. We're going to have different perceptions on when that's going to happen and what resources, but eventually there's not going to be enough, whether that's 50 years or 1,000 years. There's a damn good chance that's going to happen. It's just physics. But it's also hopefully a driving factor. We tend to rise to the occasion. It just takes a lot to get us to get moving.
Wow, you actually brought up a really interesting point too. It type of resources, right? Because that changes
Hmm.
over time. I mean,
Yep.
in 50 years, right? I mean, the internet right now is already huge as far as like a money thing for people. In 50
Yes.
years, you can only assume it's going to be more so. So imagine in
Yeah.
50 years, and then like governments start using it to like get the ante up on another government. So like they'll shut down the internet. You know,
Hmm.
saying that shutting down somebody's internet maybe 20 years ago would have been like, oh, lol, no more YouTube. Shutting down
Yeah.
somebody's
Yeah. Yeah.
internet now is
Yeah.
an infrastructural. It would crash a country.
Yep.
So like you know something like that, just one country, a couple countries. Let's say that the coalition of like the superpowers and of the UN get together and just decide to like lower the bandwidth of like 10 countries that
Yep.
like aren't in line with like a trade deal that they're signing or whatever. That would like it would be the same thing as cutting off food supply,
Yep.
or like or
No, it's an
cutting
act of
down
war.
exactly, it's an
It's
act
no
of war.
question.
Yeah.
It is. Basically, when you attack it, something's right to exist. It's an act of war. You can see that on an animal level. You can see that on a personal level. We just call it, and we used to have formality to it. Now we just kind of do
Mm.
it. For a while, we'd have to send a messenger, and then our troops would have to march in line, and then we'd get in rows. We'd make a big performance out of it. Now we
And
send
our
in
your
special
leader.
forces to go execute somebody, and
Yeah.
then we never hear about that mission ever. Just
Yeah,
suddenly
that's so
somebody's dead.
true.
It's we're getting more separated, and as we're more divided, we get colder and crueler because we have less empathy, because we are no longer a united family. We are two enemies, and we are a united family. There's no arguing it. We're on stuck on one big freaking sphere. We only got what's on that sphere to work on, which includes ourselves. And if we can't figure that out, eventually, yeah, we're going to have bigger troubles than we already have. But again, I'm hopeful. It's just growing pains, and that's making light of some very very awful things. But it's also the best perception I can give because I tend to see this thing. Most things in the micro are manifested in the macro, and vice versa.
Mm.
So it's why I deal in thought forms because they're a very small thing that can be contained in a human mind, but they're a massive thing that can affect everything in terms of actions and movements and time, space because it rebuilds places. There's all kinds of things that this very small, very intangible thing can affect. And though I don't have the again self-importance, but it's not a I don't have the arrogance that I'm gonna, but I do have the arrogance enough to try because I have to have the hope that it can be done, if not by me then somebody else. But if I'm the only one who can make a choice for me, then I should be choosing to do that because I don't know if anybody else will. I
Mm.
wouldn't want to make anybody else.
uh yeah, I mean, just resonates so hard with everything you were
Oh,
saying.
good. I've been enjoying our conversation for sure, and I appreciate you taking the time. And I'm glad we've been able to get this together. It's been a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I'm just gonna just kind of wrap up. I'm sharing your Ironverse Comics website
Oh, I
right now.
see. Thank
Yep.
you. So yeah,
So
links up top there. We have a store where you can support us directly and get some merch. You can buy the comics from my publisher. Or Patreon's there. All kinds of stuff. All kinds of stuff, folks. Anyway, every dollar helps us out. In fact, right now I'm running a thing on our Patreon that every dollar sub will get access to our digital library. So you'll get all 3 issues of Jack for $1, digitally PDF, DRM free. So copy them and move them where you want. Um, and I'm just happy to see the work being read, but it can't continue to be read if it's not supported, and it certainly can't continue to be made and improved upon if it's not supported. So I appreciate anybody who takes time to even look. I get the analytics, and like we were saying, the dollar for that $40 that could have got to 40 different artists, it does
40.
make their day. It does make their day. I can guarantee it. It makes mine every time I get. I know something's been done and something's been engaged with, and I've communicated to somebody. I don't know how I did. I don't know if they enjoyed it, but it was done. I got data for it. So I mean, I'm always it makes our day. It keeps us going. And if you want something that's not kept going by dudes in suits and high towers, this is the way you do it. You support
Exactly.
the 28-year-old out in Taos, New Mexico here, or you support uh, you over there. You're still in Chicago?
Oh no, I'm in Boston
Okay.
actually.
Boston. Well, then you support AR out there in Boston. You just listening to us right now. You're doing that, and I very much appreciate it. That's another thing too. We have a few music singles. One actually plays on the site. That one that was just advertised.
Hmm.
Um, and that's another local artist. It's one of my oldest friends here, and he's working on releasing an album that I think will actually touch a lot of people. He's finished it. It's masters, all that. He just wants to print CDs and send it to folks. So just check out Laguna Muta. Again, the link's down there on the site for Ambush at Coyote Pass, and that's a good way to check out his work. And I'd appreciate that too, because indie art, period. I specifically deal with comics, but I was a rocker. I've done the indie theater. I've done that freeing chain is very important, and I hope folks will continue to recognize it and just grow and grow its support to the point where it rivals the mainstream, to a point that it is the mainstream, and the mainstream is just what's being pushed, not what's actually popular. I'm really hopeful for that future as people get more and more sick of the corporate schlock that's being put out,
Yeah.
from music to art, comics, movies. Not all of it, obviously. Again, there's always the gems that are able to use that system to their advantage and make something awesome. And you should support that too. But part of that support does go to something you might not want to be supporting, and that's always a something you should consider. Yeah, even
Yeah.
like Patreon. People hate Patreon, but a lot of people do because their stance is on deplatforming and things. But it's one of the few outlets I have to gain income on a monthly scale, which would allow us to manifest issues bi-monthly eventually. There's a way to make a whole new indie comic company here at Ironverse Comics. I've got all the skeleton, I've got the contacts, I've got artists signed even, but funding is what keeps us from running full steam ahead. And so even just a little bit here and there makes a massive difference.
I hear you. Same thing over here. I mean, like,
Yeah.
it's all like that's it's the reason it's the reason to do this and get together and everything, not to just promote one another, but to share ideas, because
Yes.
it's all a learning curve. This is crazy. We
Exactly.
all have our different backgrounds and our different things that we're good at and that we know, and you know
Yeah.
and at the heart of it, it really is all artists and supporting
Yeah.
artists and making sure that everyone gets paid fairly and whatnot.
Yes.
Because there's nothing worse than what's happening right now with like the industry, that all the weight and all the height of everything is put on like the actors and like
Yeah.
people that are on set for like a couple hours, and compared to the producers that are there day in and day out and pay attention,
Or the
revising scripts,
editors
the
who
editors
freaking, yeah, who are,
going to
run
sleep,
ragged, given
Yeah.
way less time than they need to actually make something workable out of that performance. Uh, I mean,
Uh,
there's so many folks. Editors are a big one too. In comics, they've
and in
taken on,
writing in
at least the
general.
big comics, they've taken on a little bit more of a role of talent relations than they are editors, and that's made the comics suffer. But not an indie. If you see an editor credit with indie, usually that person was paid by the creator to edit it. So that means effort was put forward that was worthy of a paycheck, not just an interaction with a big name talent that you don't want to lose, because then you'll lose your job as an editor because you lost that talent.
Hmm.
Um, the dynamics are much different when you're dealing person to person than you're dealing person to corporate entity. And I think people need more person to person, even though we're being told less person to person is better.
Yes. It's fucked how narratives change like that, huh?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean this artwork is just, I mean,
Yeah.
I can't get over it. The stills and just like the way it there's like slight changes in it. I mean, how the grit of this compared to the lines here. I mean, God.
Yeah. So that one that you're on right now was from issue number one, which the line art was done back in 2015. And then it was colored in 2018, and then was put out about that year too from a crowdfunding campaign that funded issue two. And so there was 5 years, 3 to 5 years of difference in Maxie's skill between then and his style. So it's noticeable, but most people don't notice it or don't comment on it. At least I've asked too. I said, "Oh, I didn't notice it," but you did, so I'm glad you did. Honestly, I like seeing those little communications that you could see that there was a difference in how the line art grew. He was a younger artist. He's younger than me. I think he's about 26, and I met him, and he must have been 5 years ago. So yeah, he must have been 21 or so. So I
God,
mean, he was a
I
kid artist doing issue number one of Jack, and it's kind of a funny story, I guess. I might as well recount. So I was looking for an artist. I had a couple $100. I had no idea what I was doing with to get into indie comics, but I had some scripts. I had a time in my life where things were as down as they could get, and so I was looking for a way out. So I started looking for artists. No idea what I'm doing. No idea what to look for. I tried a couple folks, and they never got back to me. And then eventually, I was like, "Huh, I guess I'll go check Craigslist for the hell of it and see if there's anybody around that I can meet." And he ends up coming up to Taos here once in a while from Argentina. And just the timing was right. And I met this guy in a McDonald's with my scripts and my preliminary sketches. I showed him and we spoke for a little while. He showed me his sketchbook, which was more, he had done a lot of work for children's fantasy in Argentina. They don't have a comic book industry in Argentina at all. They have
hmm.
many artists, incredibly talented artists, but they don't have an industry. They don't have the backbone, the printing, the shipping, the distribution, the publishers. They have children's books and they have novelizations. So you're either getting cover work for novels or you're getting children's illustrations. So that's what he was doing. I liked his work, and he kind of liked what I was doing, and he was interested in American comics. And anyway, yeah, met in a McDonald's, didn't get stabbed, and got a comic book out of it. I was pretty stoked about that.
God, that is awesome. I found my artist off Reddit. They're
Aha.
yeah, they're literally, one of them is, well, I'm not gonna drop his name, but he's 17 years old from Brazil,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, I guess age doesn't matter with talent, because
No,
it
but
it, it,
it's
just- it blows my brain. It blows it. I wish I had like actually I'm meaning to get like a laser jet so I can start like getting like nice prints out on like a nice like stock paper.
yeah,
Um so I can actually have like, be able to like show it off and have them
yeah,
in the background and whatnot. But like just these crazy intense black and white, and they're all not he doesn't do digital work at all. It's
Oh
all
yeah, that's same with
hand pen
same with
drawing. It's
well, Maxie's been
insane.
moving more towards digital just for financial reasons, but
Mm.
the first two issues were completely traditional. He still has those pages. We've actually been trying to sell them here and there, but the price point that he deserves and the shipping out of Argentina makes it kind of impractical for anybody but like a serious collector. And a we're not at the point where we're being looked at by collectors, so we'll get there.
Yeah, you got to hold those
But
type of things.
that's the benefit of the traditional art, and that's the other thing that comics creators and indie comics creators took a hit on is, musicians took a massive hit because they can't perform, but comics creators took one because they can't go to conventions, and a lot of them make their money
Mm.
off of sketch work at conventions. They make their networking for new gigs at conventions. They meet their fans and solidify their fan base and get signings at conventions. So it was a massive kick to the teeth for even the pro um, circuit of comics. And man, I was gonna have my first convention last year too. I was very sad I didn't get to go there with my comics and all.
Oh, that
but
sucks,
but
man.
eventually things will have to calm down, or they'll get so crazy they'll be forced to get really crazy and then necessarily calm down.
Mm.
But either way, it will simmer, like you were saying. But I also have no idea how soon or the method, but it's got to. It's just impractical for so many people. It's just 100% impractical. It robs them of what they know how to do, and what they can contribute to society even. And that, at a fundamental level, some people like just sitting around and collecting paychecks, but when the entertainment also isn't that great, they're going to get a little bored. And I don't think people are dull enough to just accept that over the long term. So we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, independent art, man. Thank you so much for giving me a platform to talk about mine.
Dude, of course. I I'd love to have you back on, so
Sure.
it's like continue to keep on progressing people on what's going on with not with just Jack's Iron, but all the Ironverse and like all the different comics that
Yeah.
are coming back with the comic books and everything that you're doing, the future of the company, the future of the
Yeah.
comics that you're creating, everything. I'd love to stay tuned. You've definitely got a fan in me for life.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. My hope is always that the work will be what hooks you, but if I could be part of that work, then I can't say no.
Oh well, no, the work is what hooked me. That's the reason I contacted you.
Yeah, it's true. That's true. I'm not that smooth that I can get you before I talk to you. but but yeah, also, folks, just explore. When if you dive into any indie scene, you will find networks. You will find people interacting, and often you will find that if you like one creator and how they go about things, other creators that they are supporting and pushing forward may be doing the same or something similar, and not artwork wise or whatever, but how they go about things and how they present things. And that's how you can find a whole new world of art to engage with. And I've been very, very lucky and blessed to have been able to do that, both as a creator and a fan. I was a comic fan forever, mainly the big two. I'm a big Punisher fan. It was Punisher and Ghost Rider got me into comics. But eventually, once I got into this, I found so much better storytelling, unique expressions, and just, I won't say better people, but kinder, humbler, and more. I don't know what the word I want to follow that up with is, but people I
Like,
found more enjoyable to engage with on that level. And I think a lot of people in this day, YouTube personalities, Instagram personalities, they love that personal interaction, and indie creators know this. Indie comics creators know this because often they are their marketing team and their public relations team and a creative part of it. And so it's something fun to take part in, and I've found many blessings in doing it, and I think others will too.
no, yeah, and without a doubt, and I know I 100% know what you're talking about. With like, I would say it's like kind of like ingenuine. You know what I mean? Like when you talk to
Yeah.
people that are genuinely into the industry that you're into, and you hear the passion coming out, conversation is just awesome, and like it doesn't feel like it's like contrived or you know like bullshit because it's like you're speaking from the heart. And even
Exactly.
if the person is a world class bullshit artist, there's something about the brain that can just pick up on
Yeah.
on bullshit. It's the reason why CGI is awesome, but you can still always pick up on it even when it's really
Yeah.
good, because your
Yeah.
brain just knows what's up. It's like, nah, you're not gonna fool me, guy. And it's the same.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. You
No,
know what? You just noticed Ghost Rider. I actually have this little thing right here.
oh, nice. Nice, nice, nice. Oh, the original. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool, cool, cool. Yeah, man, I love the old Johnny Blaze arc there, and that those reprints were really cool. I think I have most of that in the essential trade paperbacks, which are black and white, but it's good for consuming. But then I have the last, I don't know, 15 or so issues when it finishes Johnny's arc there, and that's pretty fun. The book that got me into comics 100%, like this is what I want to do, was Ghost Rider Roach Damnation by Garth Ennis and Clayton Crane. And you're talking about CGI, that was one of the first digital artists to really take digital to its extreme. If you like Ghost Rider, I recommend checking that out. Road to
Neil
Damnation.
Neil Gaiman did that for me. Sandman series.
Sam is a good choice. Sam is
Yeah.
a good choice.
That
There's a quote that he said at I think it was a graduation ceremony he was speaking at about the most beautiful thing you can give is an honest expression of yourself. I'm paraphrasing it, but it's something like that, and that's one of the things I come from as well. I think more heart to heart. So you're talking about indie artists who are talking about the passion from the heart. More heart to heart communication is what we need now. I don't know who's right. Nobody knows who's right, but I know heart to heart communication is, and that's a damn fine start to making things better.
100%. Sorry that I wasn't like looking at the screen. I 100% heard everything you said.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
just looking. I also have this
Ooh,
one
nice
over here.
Thor. Yeah. I'm a Thor fan too. I've really liked Straczynski's
Yeah,
post
he's
Civil War Thor quite a lot, where he tells Iron Man where to stick it. But
I
older
mean,
Thor
I love the
Simonson and stuff
sci-fi
is really good.
aspect
Yeah,
of like
Kirby. How Kirby
my
put that right
god,
in, and they
yeah.
could never take it out.
And like and the god like when which is why it breaks your heart that DC like fumbled the ball so badly, because basically what we know of with that whole awesome like star arc was
Mhm.
basically made by oh man, his name wait, is it Jack, the guy that eventually went to DC after like
Yeah, Jack Kirby.
yeah,
He did the New Gods
yeah,
afterwards
he did
because they
the
wouldn't let him do what he wanted with Asgard.
exactly, and then they went on and did it
Did it
anyway,
again. Yeah,
dude.
they
And
did it
just like
again. He got screwed by both companies as hard as it gets,
dude,
and he built both companies basically
built
with his talent.
built
Uh,
I'm telling you. And then
yeah,
uh I'm telling you, things that just break your heart, you know what I mean?
yeah. Well, that's his famous line. Comics will break your heart, kid. That's his famous line, and he wasn't lying.
God,
But he
he
left us with amazing pieces of artistry, and
I'm
that
telling
just
you.
not I think it was worth suffering, though I didn't take the ride as he did. I'm glad he did.
Well, it's just how it is. Like real recognizes real. Fucking
Yeah, yeah,
Van Gogh died penniless, and then
yeah,
now his works are selling for like amounts that literally even he himself are going like, all right, come on.
yeah. No, it's not worth that.
He's like, all right, relax, relax, relax. A
I
hundred
cut my
million? What are you
ear
talking
off
about?
for a woman. I know the value of things. Okay.
All right, I'll give you my ear for like 50,000. What are you talking about? 100 million for this for a sketch that I made when I was 14.
Yeah, exactly.
uh, but that's all drug money
Yeah,
if you ask me. I mean, like whatever.
yeah,
We're into weird topics here.
yeah. Ah, it's
uh,
all good.
no, yeah, I've loved this conversation. I've loved every bit of it.
Thank you. I did too.
Yeah. Do you have any closing comments? If you have any further promotions, please drop it.
Oh, just check me out, folks. I'm always promoting other works too. So, say science fiction, Western, dystopia isn't your deal. I'm always promoting good works from other people. I'll promote anything that comes from the heart. I promote children's series. I promote romance series. I'll promote anything that again I feel is coming from a pure place. And So just get in contact even on that level if you're not interested in our artistry specifically. I'm happy to open some doors for folks. That's one of the best things I can do. uh, I always, in fact, quite a few creative teams have forged just because mutually knowing me, and I'm always happy to see that. Oh my God, does it make me geek out? But anywho, just support indie artistry wherever you can find it. If your neighbor's making music you like, support that over going and buying some corporate bit where maybe 2 cents go to the artist and then 98 cents go to the corporate entity that owns the rights. You know,
Mm-hmm.
um, that is a great way to take the little that we all share right now, particularly in these times, and build with it something much stronger than what's out there right now.
Without a doubt. And I could not agree more. Could not agree more. Cody, this has been phenomenal. Thank you so much for having me on. So excited for everything that's going on. I wish you the most success with the whole Ironverse comics and everything. That's just been phenomenal.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm hoping this proves worthy of your time in the long run, and I hope your viewership enjoys it. And make sure to link me. I want to see it.
I definitely will. I'll let you know the moment that this is up, and the YouTube video, everything. Well, I guess the YouTube video is going to be a little weird, but the
It is what it is.
the podcast should be up. If not this Monday, next Monday. I can't remember how the schedule
Excellent.
goes or something like that. But it'll be on a Monday.
Cool. Cool. Cool.
Um,
Cool.
Yep. Yeah. Thank you again for everything. This is gonna be the end
Thank
of the
you.
podcast. AR's Tales, aka the A.R.T podcast. Check us out. Neotino.net. We're on Spotify, Pandora, Amazon Music, Google, everything we can find us. Check us out. We're coming back to you next Monday. More authors, more interviews. Peace out.